This woman is just days away from her due date, but her husband has been missing all night and his phone is suddenly disconnected. As she paces back and forth in a panic, a police car suddenly pulls up at her door. But they aren't there to help. They arrest her on the spot for embezzlement. It turns out that a few days ago, Eun-soo helped her husband's company transfer 2 billion won. She thought it was just a routine business transaction, but the police told her a different story. They claimed her husband stole that money, and now he has vanished without a trace. Is there a deeper conspiracy lurking in the shadows? The overwhelming stress is too much for Eun-soo to handle. Her body begins to fail her, and she feels a sharp, agonizing pain in her abdomen. She was rushed to the hospital immediately. After enduring waves of intense labor, Eun-soo finally gives birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her mother can't help but complain, calling her son-in-law heartless for not showing up during the most critical moment of his wife's life. Eun-soo is also sick with worry about what happened to her husband. Right then, her brother runs into the room, hysterical and in tears. He tells them the police have called the family to identify a body. The forensic investigator tells Eun-soo a chilling story. Her husband's car went off a cliff, exploded, and sank to the bottom of the ocean. After a long search, they recovered a body. They need her to confirm if it's him. Still weak from childbirth, Eun-soo cannot handle the shock and faints on the spot. But the tragedy doesn't end there. Their case is brought to court, and the judge finds Eun-soo and her husband guilty of conspiring to embezzle the 2 billion won. Since her husband is dead, Eun-soo is left to face the punishment alone. She is sentenced to 1 year in prison. Eun-soo is absolutely devastated. She can't believe what's happening. She had no idea about the money or what was going on behind the scenes. More importantly, her daughter is just a tiny infant. As a mother, she hasn't even had the chance to hold her baby since the birth. A mother and child shouldn't be separated like this, but the judge refuses to listen to her pleas. He coldly orders the guards to take her away. Years later, Eun-soo is finally out of prison. She's working odd jobs, struggling to provide for her growing daughter. Despite the hardships, she feels content just being by her daughter's side. That is, until one day, a mysterious phone call shatters her peaceful life. The voice on the other end tells her something life-changing. Her husband didn't actually die in that accident. If she wants to know the truth, the caller tells her to check her email. Eun-soo rushes to an internet cafe, her heart pounding with anxiety. When she opens the message, she's shocked to find actual documents inside. The email states that if she wants the truth, she must go to the study of a man named Suk-yeon at 11 a.m. on September 6th. Eun-soo is stunned. Who is this person? What is really going on? Suddenly, as she's heading home, the mystery caller rings again, giving her the exact location of Suk-yeon's house. She tries to demand his identity, but he hangs up immediately. At that moment, Eun-soo looks up at a massive digital billboard on the street. The news is broadcasting a story about Suk-yeon. He is a former prime minister, and his daughter Il-ju is a high-ranking assembly member. It seems there is a dark connection between this powerful family and the mystery caller. Back at home, Eun-soo tries to figure out how to get inside Suk-yeon's house. While she's stuck for ideas, she happens to overhear a colleague gossiping. It turns out Suk-yeon's daughter Il-ju is getting married on September 6th, and the family is hiring extra domestic help for the event. This is her chance. On the day of the wedding, Eun-soo shows up undercover as a maid. While pretending to serve wine, she keeps her eyes peeled for the location the mystery caller described. After carefully dodging the gazes of the family and other staff, she successfully sneaks into Suk-yeon's private study. Following the caller's instructions, she searches the bookshelf and finally finds a hidden document tucked inside a book. Having achieved her goal, Eun-soo quickly puts the book back to avoid leaving any trace. But just as she's about to slip away, something unexpected flutters out from between the pages. It's a photograph of her husband and Suk-yeon standing together. Suddenly, a long-buried memory flashes back to her with vivid clarity. Years ago, when she was just a young girl, she had gone to find her husband and caught a glimpse of Suk-yeon from a distance. This small detail leads her to a chilling realization. Her husband and Suk-yeon had been connected for a very long time. This means her husband's accidental death was likely no accident at all. Suk-yeon was almost certainly involved. Knowing she can't stay in this dangerous house a second longer, Eun-soo grabs the mysterious paper and the photo and rushes out. But as she makes her exit, she accidentally witnesses something that stops her heart. A man and a woman are sharing an intimate kiss. The woman in the wedding dress is none other than Il-ju. Eun-soo is paralyzed with shock. She's stunned to remember that Il-ju was once her very best friend when they were kids. But what's even more devastating? The man kissing her friend is Hyung-woo, Eun-soo's first love. The history between the three of them goes back over 10 years. Back then, Eunsu was just a high school student, and her father worked as a private driver for a powerful congressman. Because of this connection, she and the congressman's son, Hyungwoo, grew up as childhood playmates. As they got older, their friendship blossomed into a deep love. However, Hyungwoo's mother looked down on Eunsu's family, seeing them as nothing more than low-level employees, and she was dead set against their relationship. On the other hand, Hyungwoo's father actually supported the two of them. For a while, they were genuinely happy, until Ilju entered the picture and became the wedge that drove them apart. It all started when Eunsu was being bullied by her classmates. At her most vulnerable moment, Ilju suddenly appeared and fought off the bullies. From that day on, they became inseparable best friends. They shared every secret, including the fact that Eunsu and Hyungwoo were in love. But somewhere along the way, Ilju secretly fell for Hyungwoo too. Knowing that Hyungwoo's mother hated her, Insu began to distance herself from him. Seeing her opening, Ilju finally confessed to Insu that she was in love with Hyungwoo. Insu was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. Her best friend was in love with her boyfriend. Despite her own pain, she hugged Ilju and comforted her, telling her that loving someone is never a crime. Meanwhile, Hyungwoo couldn't stand the cold shoulder Insu was giving him. He dragged her to the secret spot where they used to play as children, and without saying a word, he kissed her. Neither of them realized that Ilju was watching from the shadows, seeing everything. But their fleeting happiness was cut short by a dark political conspiracy. Insu's father discovered a copy of a secret document in her school bag, a document written by the congressman himself. It contained sensitive information that could ruin the careers of high-ranking officials. Panicked, her father immediately took the document to the congressman to return it. However, the original document was still missing. Hyungwoo's mother, desperate to find it, stormed into Insu's house and ransacked the place. She demanded to know where Insu had hidden the original. Eunsu's family was completely clueless. They didn't even know how the copy ended up in her bag in the first place. No matter how much they pleaded their innocence, Hyungwoo's mother refused to believe them. She went so far as to hire thugs to kidnap Eunsu, using her as leverage to force her father to hand over the original document. She even lied and told him that this was the congressman's direct order. Desperate to save his daughter, Eunsu's father tried to call the congressman, but Hyungwoo's mother had confiscated her husband's phone. He ran to a public payphone to try again, but he couldn't get through. He was devastated. He couldn't believe the congressman, the man he served, would betray him like this. In a state of pure desperation and heartbreak, he walked straight to the police station. He pulled out a bank book containing 5 billion won, an account the congressman had ordered him to open under a false name. After a moment of hesitation, he turned it over to the prosecutors, accusing the congressman of kidnapping his daughter and maintaining illegal political slush funds. Immediately, the congressman, Hyungwoo's father Jim, was arrested on charges of illegal fundraising and kidnapping a minor. Inside the cold interrogation room, the prosecutor looked him in the eye and asked the one question that could change everything. What exactly was written in that document? Inside the interrogation room, the congressman remains silent. He refuses to say a word about the document. But when the police charge him with kidnapping a minor, he makes a shocking choice. To protect his wife, he takes the full blame. He confesses to a crime he didn't commit just to keep her safe. Then, in a final act of desperation to end the investigation and bury the truth forever, he jumps from a window. His death brings a sudden, chilling silence to the entire case. In the wake of his passing, the prosecution concludes that the 5 billion won was nothing more than a massive bribe. Eunsu's father is devastated, crushed by an overwhelming sense of guilt over the congressman's death. With their world falling apart, Eunsu's family finally moves out of the congressman's estate. Before leaving, Eunsu hands a special music box of love, a gift from Hyungwoo, to Ilju. She asks her friend to return it to him for her. Even though their love for each other hasn't faded, the tragic rift between their families has left their relationship paralyzed, with no way forward. But once she's alone in her room, Ilju reveals her true colors. She pulls out the original secret document, which she had hidden inside a book all along. While she successfully managed to drive Eunsu away, she is secretly terrified. She never imagined her plan would lead to such a deadly outcome. It turns out Ilju had once overheard her father and Sukhyun discussing that very document. Realizing how powerful those papers were, a twisted plan formed in her mind. She wanted to use them to tear Eunsu and Hyungwoo apart. That's why she secretly slipped the copy into Eunsu's backpack. That one act of jealousy sparked the entire tragedy. After the funeral, Hyungwoo's mother begins making her own moves. She takes Ilju to see Sukhyun and drops a bombshell. She claims Ilju is actually Sukhyun's biological daughter and that her mother had recently passed away. Sukhyun is left completely stunned by the news. Meanwhile, Hyungwoo knows deep down that his father's death was no accident. Sukhyun was behind it. He knows the truth is far more complicated than it seems. Driven by a thirst for justice, he decides to go against his father's dying wish for him to stay out of politics. He chooses to infiltrate Sukhyun's inner circle to get his revenge. And his path to the top? It's Sukhyun's long-lost daughter, Ilju. To win her over and keep her close to Sukhyun, Hyungwoo begins to fake feelings for her, playing right into Ilju's desires. Under the glow of a shimmering sunset, Hyungwoo leans in and gives Ilju a kiss fueled not by love, but by a cold, calculated plan for vengeance. Fast forward several years to the present day. Ilju is about to marry another man, Moo-hyuk, in a political arrangement meant to benefit her family. Dressed in her white wedding gown, she is seconds away from becoming someone else's wife. But just before the ceremony, she pulls Hyungwoo aside and kisses him passionately. After the kiss, she takes her groom's arm and slowly walks onto the stage. But even as she stands beside her new husband, her eyes never leave Hyungwoo in the audience. Just moments ago, they were in each other's arms, but now that love is a thing of the past. The only reason Ilju agreed to this marriage is because her father, Sukhyun, forced her hand, threatening to kill Hyungwoo if she didn't comply. At the same time, Eun-soo is still working the party as a maid. As she turns around, she accidentally comes face to face with Hyungwoo and his mother. Panicked and desperate to remain unrecognized, she tries to rush away, but she accidentally causes a scene that draws everyone's attention. Hyungwoo's mother, who still hates Yoon-soo with a passion, chases her to a secluded spot. She looks at Yoon-soo with pure disgust and throws a wad of cash at her, ordering her to disappear and never come back. Yoon-soo is forced to pick the bills up off the ground before leaving the party in shame. Since the death of his father, Hyungwoo and his mother have continued to work for Sukhyun. Hyungwoo now serves as an assistant to the chief of staff. His task for the day? Picking up Ilju. When Ilju's new husband, Moo-hyuk, sees him, he greets Hyungwoo with a fake, overly friendly smile. He goes out of his way to mark his territory, kissing Ilju goodbye right in front of Hyungwoo. It's a blatant move to make Hyungwoo uncomfortable, but Hyungwoo keeps a perfectly stone-cold expression. He knows he can't show even a hint of emotion because he knows Sukhyun is secretly watching his every move. On the outside, Ilju's life looks like a dream, but the reality is a living nightmare. As an illegitimate daughter, she's never been truly accepted by her own siblings. Day in and day out, they mock her and treat her with nothing but pure contempt. Witnessing all of this, a dark ambition begins to grow inside Ilju. She realizes that the only way to stop people from trampling over her is to seize ultimate power for herself. She makes a silent, cold-blooded vow to climb to the very top. Her goal? She wants to run for president. Meanwhile, Eun-soo receives another anonymous phone call. The mystery caller drops a new instruction. If she wants to find out the truth behind her husband's death, she must put on a pair of glasses and apply for a job at Sukhyun's house tomorrow. Desperate for answers, Eun-soo follows the caller's lead and shows up at the mansion to apply as a maid. But the moment she arrives, she runs straight into Il-ran, Ilju's half-sister. Il-ran is looking for trouble and immediately starts mocking her own sister-in-law. She laughs at her, saying the sister-in-law has terrible taste because she's wearing the exact same outfit as the applicant, Eun-soo. The sister-in-law is humiliated to see that the designer brand she spent a fortune on looks identical to the cheap clothes Eun-soo bought at a local market. Eun-soo tries to de-escalate the situation, explaining that her clothes couldn't possibly be the same as a luxury brand, but her explanation only makes the sister-in-law more furious. In a fit of embarrassed rage, the woman lashes out, slapping Eun-soo so hard that her glasses fly across the floor. She screams at Eun-soo, telling her she has no right to even open her mouth. Unknown to them, Sukhyun witnessed the entire scene. Eun-soo pulls herself away from the servants, wanting nothing more than to leave that place, but as she turns around, she freezes. There stands Ilju, her old best friend, whom she hasn't seen in years, standing right behind Sukhyun. Feeling Ilju's eyes burning into her, Eun-soo sees her former friend instinctively shrink back behind her father's shadow. Ilju is visibly panicked, unable to comprehend why Eun-soo is suddenly standing in her home. To protect what little dignity she has left, Eun-soo quickly turns and vanishes. Sukhyun stands there, staring at the spot where she stood, seemingly dazed by a sense of familiarity. After Eun-soo leaves, he walks over and picks up her glasses. He immediately orders a full background check on her, and it doesn't take long to get results. Looking at a photo of Eun-soo and her husband, Sukhyun recognizes him instantly. This is the man he had sent away 6 years ago. Not only that, he realizes Eun-soo's father was the driver who blew the whistle on Hyungwoo's dad. Knowing that both people are tied to his dark past, Sukhyun figures out why Eun-soo applied for the job. To see what she's planning and to keep her under his thumb, he decides to hire her. Just like she hoped, Eunsu becomes a maid for the powerful Kang family. Every day, she is forced to serve food and drinks to everyone in the house, including her first love and her former best friend. But the other servants make her life a living hell. The head maid, who hates that Eunsu got the job through the back door, looks for every reason to pick a fight. She even goes as far as putting dirt on freshly washed dishes just so she can scream at Eunsu for not cleaning them. The other maids join in the bullying, throwing Eunsu's freshly dried bedsheets onto the floor and constantly hurl insults and mockery at her. Finally, Eunsu can't take it anymore and snaps, but she's no match for two of them at once. They quickly get the upper hand until the head maid spots Sukyeon approaching. They immediately stop their assault and scramble away. Hyungwoo saw the whole thing too. He calls Eunsu over to a corner, but instead of comfort, he spits out words that are like poison. He demands to know, "Did you come back looking like this just so I could see you?" He tells her flat out that he never wants to see her again. To him, her presence is a disgusting reminder of his father's death. He looks at her with pure revulsion and says, "It's sickening just to look at you." His words are like a knife twisting in Eunsu's bleeding heart. She never imagined that after all these years, Hyungwoo would still hate her and misunderstand her so deeply. A little later, while she's supposed to be cleaning, Eunsu manages to sneak back into Sukyeon's private study. She remembers the anonymous message and follows the instructions to find the secret book. But after searching frantically for what feels like hours, she still comes up empty-handed. Dejected, she retreats to the kitchen to eat a bowl of bibimbap by herself. Suddenly, Sukyeon walks in. To her surprise, he sits down and takes a bite of her food. She tells him it's apricot bibimbap, a recipe she learned from a high school friend. Sukyeon leaves without saying a word, but the encounter leaves him deeply shaken. You see, when he looks at Eunsu, he sees the ghost of his deceased lover. The taste of that meal reminds him so much of the bibimbap he used to eat with Ilju's mother that he can barely contain his emotions. On her way home, Eunsu replays the strange moment in her head, unable to explain Sukyeon's behavior. Still, she realizes this could be her best chance to get closer to him and uncover the truth. But her thoughts are interrupted when she finds Hyungwoo lying injured on the side of the road. With no other choice, she takes him back to her place to tend to his wounds. This leads to an unexpected meeting between her first love and her daughter, Im-irae. Back at the Kang mansion, Eunsu's life as a maid remains a nightmare. The sister-in-law and the housekeeper are constantly breathing down her neck, mocking her at every turn. They sneer at her, asking if she thinks she's untouchable just because she has Sukyeon's protection. To make matters worse, Sukyeon's eldest son takes out all his resentment toward Ilju on Eunsu. He intentionally sets her up to fail, and when he catches her in a mistake, he grabs her by the hair and starts dragging her outside to punish her. Right then, Sukyeon is jolted awake from a nightmare and decides to head out for a walk. When he sees his son brutalizing Eunsu, something inside him snaps. He charges forward and unleashes a barrage of punches on his own son, not missing a single hit. Eunsu is saved, but after the adrenaline wears off, Sukyeon realizes he's made a mistake. He was so lost in his memories that he thought he was protecting his past lover. Shaken and confused by the blurred lines between past and reality, he staggers back to his room, leaving everyone else in the house completely stunned. On another day, Eunsu takes advantage of a quiet moment to search Sukyeon's study again. She still can't find the book the anonymous caller mentioned, but she accidentally discovers something even more important, the key to a secret code within the documents. Heart racing, she pulls out her phone to snap a photo, but just as she does, Sukyeon appears out of nowhere. Eunsu turns pale with fear, convinced that this is the end for her. She imagines all the terrifying ways he might punish her. But in the next second, Sukyeon loses his grip on reality again. He looks at her and sees the woman he once loved. He suddenly drops to his knees, begging for her forgiveness. He confesses through tears that he failed to protect her from the very beginning. As he finishes his confession, he collapses to the ground, unconscious. After the staff rushes Sukyeon to the hospital, Ilju corners Eunsu and demands to know what happened. Eunsu thinks fast and lies, claiming she only went into the room to thank Sukyeon for his help and found him passed out. The family is suspicious, but they have no proof that she was up to something else. Once she's safely back home, Eunsu uses the cipher she found to decode the secret message written on the back of her husband's old photograph. Her heart stops when she sees the results. The information about the money and the bank accounts is an exact match for the funds she and her husband were accused of stealing years ago. This confirms her darkest suspicion. Sukyeon is the mastermind behind the scheme and the man responsible for her husband's death. The next day, Eunsu returns to the Kang house to work, but she is met with a shocking sight. Her mother has shown up at the mansion, and she brought Eunsu's daughter, Mi-irae, with her. When the housekeeper sees Unsu's family at the house, she absolutely loses it, exploding in a fit of rage. Just as things were getting tense, Sukyeon's daughter-in-law, Se-young, suddenly steps out with a seemingly warm attitude. She acts incredibly hospitable, giving Unsu's mother a tour of the mansion and even offering little Mi-irae some cake. But it's all a trap. While pretending to be kind, she accidentally spills a glass of milk all over the expensive rug. Then, with a cold smirk, she demands that Unsu clean it up immediately. Unsu's young daughter, Mi-irae, witnesses the whole humiliating scene. Seeing her mother being treated like a servant and bullied breaks her heart, and she starts sobbing. As they are leaving, the little girl's anger boils over. She hurls the cake box at Se-young. Enraged, Se-young lunges at the child to attack her. Just in time, Unsu rushes over to protect her daughter and instinctively pushes the woman away. Se-young seizes the opportunity, faking an agonizing injury and accusing Unsu of assault. In a world where money talks, the police quickly take Se-young's side. Unsu is charged and hauled off to the station. Desperate and with nowhere else to turn, Unsu's mother and daughter wait outside in a panic. While her grandmother is away running an errand, little Mi-irae is left alone. Terrified and crying, she spots Hyungwoo. She runs to him, begging him to save her mother, and in her innocence, she mentions the night he stayed over at their house. Unbeknownst to them, Il-ju is standing in the distance, overhearing every single word. That night, Hyungwoo makes a calculated move. He goes to see Il-ju's brother, Il-do, who is her bitter rival in the race for the presidency. Hyungwoo offers to work for him, claiming he has the evidence needed to take Il-ju down once and for all. But he has one non-negotiable condition. Il-do must use his power to get Unsu released. The next day, Unsu is set free. Believing that her old friend Il-ju was the one who saved her, she goes to thank her. To her surprise, she finds Il-ju in tears. Il-ju pours her heart out, claiming she only married her current husband because her father threatened to kill Hyungwoo. She tells Unsu that she and Hyungwoo had a secret pact, but she's been sick with worry because she couldn't reach him the other night. Unsu realizes Il-ju is talking about the night Hyungwoo was at her house. She wants to tell her the truth, but she remembers Hyungwoo's warning. If anyone finds out he was there, his life would be in grave danger. With the words on the tip of her tongue, Unsu chooses to stay silent, simply holding Il-ju's hand to comfort her. Little do they know, Se-young is lurking nearby, listening to the entire conversation. Back in her room, Il-ju pulls out the old music box, the gift Unsu had tried to return years ago. Looking at it brings back a flood of memories of the three of them together. Meanwhile, Unsu is at home, looking at the old photo of her husband and Seokhyun. Suddenly, she notices a date written on the back. Her blood runs cold when she realizes the date matches the exact day her husband died. The next day at the Kong mansion, Unsu catches Hyungwoo and pulls him aside. She hands him a scrap of paper with a mysterious code on it, telling him she found it in Seokhyun's study. She wants to ask if he knows what it means, but Hyungwoo reacts with unexpected fury. He rips the paper to shreds and spits out more hateful words, ordering her to leave the house and never return. He coldly tells her that seeing her face only reminds him of his father's tragic death. But this time, Unsu doesn't back down. She's just as angry. She tells him she never did anything to hurt his father and reminds him that her own father suffered just as much after that tragedy. She snaps at him, saying that keeping his secret has been an unbearable burden for her. She tells him that from now on, they should live their own lives and act like they are total strangers. Meanwhile, the political storm is brewing. Il-do's assistant goes to Il-ju and reveals that Hyungwoo met with her brother. The assistant is terrified that if Hyungwoo joins their side, he'll be replaced, so he's trying to eliminate the threat. Shortly after, Il-ju is slapped with a legal summons. She's being investigated for election fraud. Fuming with rage, Il-ju storms home and slaps Hyungwoo across the face. Hyungwoo tries to explain that while he did talk to her brother, he had nothing to do with the search warrant. But Il-ju isn't buying it. She tells him to stop lying because he's the only one who knew where the incriminating documents were hidden. Right in front of Seokhyun, Il-ju demands that Hyungwoo take the fall for this. She leaves him with a chilling warning. If he dares to touch her position or her power, she will make sure he is buried for good. After storming out of the Kong mansion, Hyungwoo pulls Il-ju aside into a private corner. He quickly explains his plan. He's acting this way so her father will believe she only sees him as a useful tool. By doing this, they can keep their relationship hidden and eventually marry in secret. He looks her in the eye and insists that this is the only way for the two of them to ever truly be together. Soon after, Hyungwoo was brought in for a grueling interrogation. He sticks to the plan and takes the fall for Il-ju. But then, the interrogator drops a bombshell. It's not just about the suitcase of cash anymore. They bring up 2 luxury watches and 100 million won used to bribe a pastor's wife. Hyung-woo is blindsided. He knows nothing about these extra bribes. Realizing something is terribly wrong, he waits for the right moment when the interrogator isn't looking and slips into the tech room. There, he confirms his worst fear. He's been walked right into a trap. It turns out Il-ju was the one who bribed the pastor's wife out of desperation, fearing her election campaign was failing. Suk-hyun berates her for being so reckless and losing them votes, but since the damage is done, they decide Hyung-woo must take the blame for everything. Meanwhile, Il-ju's husband, Moo-hyuk, goes to see his own father. He casually tosses and catches a priceless vase, a subtle but dangerous warning for his father to keep his hands off his wife. While Hyung-woo is locked up, Il-ju goes to visit him, only to find that Eun-soo has beaten her there. Eun-soo slips him a piece of paper covered in secret code. The message is clear. She wants him to put an end to all of this, and she promises she will look after his mother. Seeing the code, Hyung-woo is hit with a wave of emotion. It reminds him of a nearly identical note his own father once received. A single tear falls down his face. That night, the mystery caller rings Eun-soo again. Eun-soo tells him she's done. She wants to walk away from the Kang family and give up on finding the truth about her husband's death. But the mystery man won't let her go. He uses her daughter as leverage, threatening the little girl to force Eun-soo to keep following his orders. The pressure is mounting everywhere. Il-ju spends the night drinking her sorrows away, and Suk-hyun feels a strange sense of relief seeing his daughter grow tougher. But the horror isn't over for Eun-soo. The next day, when she goes to pick up her daughter from school, she finds an anonymous letter and a photo of Mi-rae inside the girl's locker. Terrified that the mystery man is coming for her child, Eun-soo goes into a frantic panic. She runs everywhere searching for Mi-rae, eventually collapsing on the ground in tears. But then, Mi-rae suddenly appears. It turns out she had just gone to grab a bite with Eun-soo's former boss, who still has a crush on Eun-soo and was trying to win over both mother and daughter. The next day, she runs into Hyung-woo at the Kang house. She finally tells him the real reason she can't leave. A mysterious stranger is using her daughter's life to blackmail her into doing his bidding. Right then, Hyung-woo gets a call. Suk-hyun has been discharged and is arriving home. He and Eun-soo quickly join the staff to welcome him back. As Suk-hyun walks past Eun-soo, he calls her by his lover's name yet again. Eun-soo is terrified, wondering if he remembers what happened the night before. She tries to subtly test his memory, but he seems to have completely blacked out the entire incident. Meanwhile, Il-ju's husband, Moo-hyuk, is out playing golf with her brother, Il-do. The brother-in-law relentlessly mocks Moo-hyuk, calling him a weak and pathetic husband. That night, Moo-hyuk returns home reeking of alcohol. Fueled by rage and humiliation, he becomes violent and forces himself on Il-ju in a brutal assault. At the same time, Eun-soo gets a sudden, frantic call from her daughter. Mi-rae tells her to come to the park immediately, but before Eun-soo can ask a single question, the line goes dead. Realizing something is horribly wrong, she rushes to the park, but her daughter is nowhere to be found. Hyung-woo receives a similar call and meets Eun-soo there. Before they can figure out what's going on, they are suddenly surrounded by a group of men dressed in black. Hyung-woo is quickly outnumbered and beaten until he's unconscious. Eun-soo is terrified and is also knocked out cold. The two of them are thrown into a massive shipping container, which is then locked tight and moved out to sea. When Eun-soo finally wakes up and realizes where they are, she panics. Hyung-woo is beside her, badly injured and still out cold. On the other side of the city, a traumatized and terrified Il-ju is desperately calling Hyung-woo, but there's no answer. To survive, Eun-soo screams for help with everything she has, but the only response is the haunting sound of the crashing waves. Terrified, she desperately tries to shake Hyung-woo awake, but he doesn't move. As the container begins to sink into the dark ocean, Hyung-woo finally opens his eyes. Knowing he is gravely injured and fearing the end is near, he leans into Hyung-woo's arms and begins to reminisce about the beautiful memories they shared in the past. He loses consciousness again, just as the container disappears beneath the surface. To keep them both alive, Yeon-soo clings to Hyung-woo with all her might, kicking her legs desperately to stay afloat in the rising water. But it isn't long before her strength completely gives out. The two of them are slowly sinking into the dark abyss. With his final ounce of consciousness, Hyung-woo uses every bit of strength he has left to lift Yeon-soo's head above the water so she can breathe. But he can't hold on for long. His body gives out, and he slips beneath the surface, drifting into unconsciousness. Panicked, Yeon-soo dives after him. In a desperate final act of love, she shares her very last breath with him before they both drift into total darkness. When Yeon-soo finally opens her eyes, she's shocked to find herself in a hospital bed. Her first instinct is to find Hyung-woo. She frantically searches the halls until she finds him in another room, alive and safe. Only then does she let out a sigh of relief. But the peace doesn't last. Il-ju and Hyung-woo's mother arrive shortly after, and they are looking for blood. They demand to know what happened. Yoon-soo tells them they were kidnapped, but Il-ju doesn't believe a word of it. Feeling betrayed for the last time, Il-ju tells Yoon-soo that their childhood friendship is officially over. Hyung-woo has his own suspicions. He's convinced Suk-hyun was the one behind the kidnapping. But Il-ju drops a bombshell. She claims the kidnapping and the previous attack on Hyung-woo were actually orchestrated by her own husband, Muk-hyuk. She explains that he discovered their secret relationship and acted out of a jealous rage. Surprisingly, she tells them that Suk-hyun was actually the one who saved them. Because he was already suspicious of Yoon-soo's motives, he had secretly ordered his men to track her every move. They had hidden a GPS tracker on her, which allowed them to locate the container at sea and pull them out just in time. Later, while Yoon-soo is working in the kitchen, Suk-hyun walks in and asks her to cook some noodles for him. As he eats, he is once again overcome by memories of his past love. In his dazed state, he mistakes Eun-soo for the woman he once lost, reaching out to caress her face with deep affection. Eun-soo sees an opportunity and decides to play along, stepping into the role of his former lover to gather more information. What she doesn't realize is that Il-ju is watching the entire intimate scene from the doorway. The next day, Eun-soo is summoned before the entire family. Il-ju confronts her, demanding to know why she's pretending to be her mother and trying to seduce her father. Suk-hyun's eldest son jumps in, accusing her of being a gold digger trying to swindle the old man's fortune. He demands that Eun-soo check her bank balance right then and there to prove she isn't hiding anything. Eun-soo, confident in her innocence, calls the bank to prove them wrong. But her heart stops when the bank confirms a sudden, mysterious deposit of 200 million won in her account. Il-ju is ready to call the police and have Eun-soo hauled away, but at the last possible second, Suk-hyun steps in to stop her. At this moment, he has no memory of the night before, and more importantly, he is desperate to hide the fact that he is losing his mind to dementia. To get to the bottom of the mysterious money, Hyung-woo starts his own investigation at the bank. He discovers that it wasn't Suk-hyun who sent the money, but Il-ju's own secretary. Hyung-woo secretly leaks this evidence to Il-ju's rival brother, Il-do. During a family gathering, Il-do ruthlessly exposes the truth in front of everyone. Faced with her father's questioning gaze, Il-ju stops lying. She admits she framed Eun-soo just to get her kicked out of the house. However, Suk-hyun tells Il-ju that he has his own reasons for keeping Eun-soo around. He suspects that Eun-soo is working with whoever holds the original secret documents from years ago. He wants to use her as bait to lure out the person pulling the strings. To give her more freedom to move and expose herself, he gives her a massive promotion, from housemaid to his own private secretary. Eun-soo initially tries to refuse, thinking she's not qualified for such a high-level job. But then she realizes she can use this new position to gain access to the files she's been searching for. What Eun-soo doesn't know is that Suk-hyun is already one step ahead, having his men monitor her every single move. Now serving as his private secretary, Eun-soo continues her dangerous game. She leans into Suk-hyun's delusions, dressing and acting like his former lover. Lost in his dementia, and unable to tell the difference between Eun-soo and the woman he once loved, Suk-hyun reaches into his pocket and hands Eun-soo the key to his private safe, telling her he wants her to find the truth for herself. Just as she's holding the key, a clock suddenly chimes, and Suk-hyun snaps back to reality. His dementia clears instantly, and he looks at Eun-soo with total confusion, asking why on earth she's in his private room. Heart racing, Eun-soo quickly hides the key behind her back and makes up a frantic excuse to escape. The moment she's free, she rushes to the bank and opens Suk-hyun's private safe. There it is, the summary book, the master ledger that the mystery man has been obsessed with. She quickly makes a copy of the ledger and follows the mystery man's complex delivery instructions. But unknown to her, Hyung-woo has been secretly listening in on her calls. He's been tailing her every move. Suddenly, the mystery man's voice crackles on the phone, telling her to turn around. Eun-soo spins around and is shocked to see Hyung-woo standing there, clutching his own phone. Exposed, Hyung-woo quickly turns away, but the realization hits him hard. He isn't the only one tracking Eun-soo. Following the mystery man's cold orders, Eun-soo continues the drop-off. Just as she's about to enter a subway station, a man dressed in black lunges from the shadows, snatching the folder of documents right out of her hands. But before he can escape, a second group of men who had been tailing Eun-soo swarms him, pinning him to the ground. High above them, from a hidden vantage point, the mystery man watches the entire chaotic scene through binoculars. In the aftermath, Eun-soo can't stop replaying the scene in her head. She connects the dots and starts to suspect that Hyung-woo might actually be the mystery man pulling her strings. But then she remembers all the times he risked his own life to save hers, and she begins to doubt her own theory. However, Her world is shattered when she happens to eavesdrop on a conversation between Hyungwoo and his mother. She hears his mother demand that he use Yoonsu's love as a weapon, manipulating her to charm Suk-hyun so they can steal the former prime minister's secret offshore slush funds. Yoonsu is devastated. She can't believe that the man she loved was only getting close to her for revenge and money. The shock is like a physical blow, tearing her heart open. The next day is the anniversary of her father's death. Yoonsu takes the opportunity to return to her hometown. Drowning in sadness, she visits the old tree where she and Hyungwoo used to have their secret dates. As she looks at the tree, she sighs, feeling the sweet memories of their past drifting further and further away. Suddenly, Hyungwoo appears behind her. He's frustrated, demanding to know why she's been avoiding him. He warns her that she's in grave danger and needs to leave the Kang mansion immediately. He even assumes she's ignoring him because of Ilju. Eunsu looks at him with cold eyes and asks, "If I told you the truth, would I just disappear?" Before he can answer, both of their phones ring at the exact same time. Eunsu answers. It's the mystery man. This one call proves everything. Hyungwoo cannot be the man who's been threatening her. Relief washes over her as she realizes she was wrong about him. Despite everything that's happened, Hyungwoo's heart still belongs to her. After facing life and death together, he realizes he can't fight his feelings anymore. Overcome by years of suppressed emotion, Hyungwoo pulls her close and gives her a passionate kiss. But just like many years ago, there is a silent witness. Ilju is standing in the shadows, watching them. She is paralyzed with disbelief. Years ago, she did everything in her power to tear them apart, but here they are, falling right back into each other's arms. She realizes that all the years she spent by Hyungwoo's side, she was nothing more than a fool, a side character in their story. When she returns home, her world gets even darker. Her husband, Moo-hyuk, pulls out the divorce papers she had prepared and slowly tears them to shreds right in front of her. He tells her coldly that he will never, ever let her go. He vows that even when his time comes to leave this earth, they are going together. Haunted by the image of Hyungwoo kissing Yoonsu, Ilju spirals into a blinding rage, smashing the mirror in her room into 1,000 pieces. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the mystery man finally has the master ledger in his hands. He sends word that he will no longer threaten the life of Yoonsu's daughter. With her child safe, Yoonsu makes a final decision. She is leaving the Kang family for good. She's done searching for the truth about her husband's death. Yoonsu wants nothing more than to live a quiet, peaceful life with her daughter, and she desperately pleads with Hyungwoo to let go of his deep-seated thirst for revenge. But Hyungwoo has spent years meticulously planning his vengeance, and he simply cannot bring himself to throw it all away now. Determined to walk away, Eunsu takes her resignation letter straight to Suk-hyun, but she never could have anticipated the nightmare waiting for her. The very moment Eunsu steps through her front door at home, her heart drops into her stomach. Her daughter is gone. She has completely vanished. As she frantically searches for her child, her phone suddenly buzzes. It's a text from an unknown number containing a terrifying photo of her daughter. Panicked and desperate, Eunsu follows the mysterious sender's chilling instructions and rushes to an abandoned, desolate construction site. When she arrives, a group of dangerous-looking men carrying weapons starts closing in on her. Eunsu screams at them, demanding to know why they are still harassing her, even though she already delivered the master ledger as promised. But the thugs ignore her pleas, advancing closer and closer. Terrified, Eunsu is forced to back away. Right at that moment, high above her, a massive shipping crate starts to wobble. Suddenly, it breaks loose and plunges straight down. The thugs scramble out of the way to save themselves. Just as the giant crate is about to crush Eunsu to death, a mysterious man rushes out of nowhere, grabs her, and violently pulls her out of harm's way, saving her life by a split second. When Eunsu finally regains consciousness, she's shocked to find herself in a hospital bed with none other than Suk-hyun sitting at her bedside. It turns out his personal henchmen were the ones who saved her life. Right then, her phone rings. It's her daughter. Hearing her daughter's voice and knowing she is safe and sound, Eunsu finally breathes a massive sigh of relief as the suffocating weight is lifted from her chest. Meanwhile, Suk-hyun's bitter political rival and in-law is absolutely furious when he learns that Eunsu has been rescued. Here's the crazy twist. Soo-myung, Ilju's father-in-law, is actually the mastermind behind the anonymous threats. On the surface, he acts like a close friend to Suk-hyun and has even bound their families through marriage. But in reality, he is a wolf in sheep's clothing who wants to destroy Suk-hyun at any cost. At the exact same time, a broken and desperate Ilju stands precariously on the edge of a high-rise building. She places a frantic call to Hyungwoo, who rushes to the scene in a panic. Seeing her on the brink of ending it all, he tries his best to comfort and calm her down. This time, he decides to stop hiding his dark intentions. He completely exposes his plot for revenge right to Il-ju's face. However, he admits that ever since Eun-soo re-entered his life, his heart and his perspective have completely changed. The next day, Il-ju goes to see Hyung-woo's mother. She tells her that Hyung-woo confessed everything to her, and she promises to help them achieve their revenge. However, she points out that the most crucial step right now is securing those secret documents. Hyung-woo's mother knows that Eun-soo is holding onto a copy of them. Together, she and Il-ju hatch a devious plan to exploit Eun-soo's deep love for Hyung-woo to steal the documents from her. Back at the mansion, Suk-hyun sits down for breakfast, but finds himself with absolutely no appetite. He goes out to find Eun-soo, tracking her down to the old restaurant where she used to work. He asks her to make him that special apricot bibimbap she prepared for him once before. Just as he finishes eating and prepares to leave, Eun-soo's phone rings. It's Hyung-woo's mother on the line. This immediately triggers Suk-hyun's suspicion. Sensing that something is off, he instantly orders his men to locate Hyung-woo. At that exact moment, Hyung-woo is inside Suk-hyun's secret vault, frantically taking photos of all the incriminating evidence regarding Suk-hyun's illegal slush funds. He plans to release this evidence to the public and finally clear his father's tarnished name. But just as he is recording the proof, the vault door suddenly swings open. Standing there is Suk-hyun himself. Meanwhile, Eun-soo is in a state of pure panic after receiving the call from Hyung-woo's mother, who told her that Hyung-woo is in mortal danger. She was told that the only way to save him is to deliver the secret documents to the prosecutors. Sick with worry, Eun-soo grabs all the files and runs. But on her way, she is suddenly intercepted by a police car. The officers tell her that something terrible has happened to Hyung-woo and demand that she come with them. Clueless and terrified of what is happening, Eun-soo is taken directly to the warehouse where Hyung-woo is being held captive. There, Suk-hyun goes through the documents she brought and makes a shocking discovery. Among her files are the 3 crucial missing pages from the original secret document from years ago. It turns out that back then, when Il-ju secretly slipped the copied files into Eun-soo's backpack, Eun-soo's little brother had accidentally taken out 3 pages to fold into a paper toy. Because of that innocent childhood mistake, the entire file had been missing those 3 vital pages all this time. Inside the cold warehouse, Suk-hyun glares at the documents in his hand. He demands to know if Hyung-woo and his mother have been colluding with Eun-soo all along to take him down. Hyung-woo tries to deny it, but Eun-soo interrupts him. She chooses to tell the truth. She admits that she was the one who brought the documents to the prosecutor, but she explains why. For the past month, a mystery man has been blackmailing her, threatening her daughter's life if she didn't follow his every order. Suk-hyun snatches Eun-soo's phone and scrolls through it, finding a long list of calls from blocked anonymous numbers. Hyung-woo then presents his own evidence, a voice analysis report. According to the data, the mystery man's voice is a perfect match for Suk-hyun's own son, Il-do. This revelation catches Suk-hyun off guard. Though he's still suspicious, this proof temporarily clears Hyung-woo and Eun-soo of conspiring directly against him. Suk-hyun makes a chilling move. He burns the secret documents right in front of them before setting them free. But there's a catch. He tells Eun-soo that if she wants to prove her innocence, she must continue working at the Kong house. In exchange, he promises to have his men protect her daughter. Suk-hyun has a hidden agenda. He wants to know if Hyung-woo's mother is the real puppet master pulling his son's strings. To test this, he hands Eun-soo 4 financial ledgers for a company called Ungam and orders her to investigate. Eun-soo dives into the books and discovers something massive. Nearly 20 billion won has been funneled through Ungam into various art galleries and private collections. When Eun-soo tells Hyung-woo about the discovery, he tells her to keep quiet and not mention it to Suk-hyun yet. What they don't realize is that Suk-hyun is bugging them every word. He has been listening to their entire conversation. Later, Suk-hyun confronts Eun-soo and plays a recording that shatters her heart. It's a tape of Hyung-woo's mother ordering Hyung-woo to manipulate Eun-soo into faking the ledgers. Even worse, Hyung-woo actually agreed to his mother's plan. Eun-soo is devastated to realize that the man she loved was just using her as a pawn in his game of revenge. Fueled by betrayal, she immediately exposes Hyung-woo's mother for her secret money transfers. Faced with Eun-soo's accusations and the hard evidence, the mother has no way to deny it. Suk-hyun finally realizes his own son was conspiring with outsiders to embezzle his fortune, using the mystery man persona to plant Eun-soo in the house to find his other secret funds. Hyung-woo's mother drops to her knees, begging for mercy, though they both still deny that Eun-soo was their plant. Suk-hyun doesn't believe a word of it. Right then, Il-ju walks in. She tells her father that while the mystery man's voice sounds exactly like her brother, a deeper forensic analysis proves it's a fake. It's not actually Il-do. After Suk-hyun confirms this for himself, his suspicion toward his son fades, but his anger toward Hyung-woo's mother remains. He leaves her with a terrifying warning. If she doesn't stay in line, she and her son will meet the same tragic fate as her late husband. In the aftermath of this chaos, Il-ju finally sees the true face of Hyung-woo's mother. She realizes the woman was playing both sides, pretending to cooperate with Il-ju while actually working with her brother, Il-do. The mother doesn't back down. She coolly asks Il-ju, "Weren't you the one who framed Eun-soo years ago by planting that secret document in her bag?" She reveals she knows Il-ju did it out of jealousy to tear the lovers apart. Il-ju tries to stay calm, but inside she is drowning in fear. She rushes home and immediately opens her private safe to make sure her own secret documents are still there. But she's met with a horrifying sight. The safe is completely empty. Panicked, she searches for her husband, Moo-hyuk, wondering if he was the one who broke in. After a frantic search, Moo-hyuk finally returns home. He doesn't even try to hide it. He casually admits that he has the documents and has moved them to a safe place. Il-ju is livid, screaming at him for touching her things, but Moo-hyuk just smirks. He isn't the pushover husband anymore. He looks her in the eye and uses the stolen documents to threaten her, turning the tables on her once and for all. Moo-hyuk leans in and whispers a chilling truth. If Hyung-woo ever found out that Il-ju was the reason his father died, he would hate her forever. This secret leaves Il-ju paralyzed with fear. She desperately begs Moo-hyuk to return the documents, but he drops a bombshell. He claims he has already sent them to Hyung-woo. Il-ju frantically rushes to Hyung-woo's office, but when she sees that he doesn't have the originals in his hands, she lets out a massive sigh of relief. However, Hyung-woo isn't clueless. Suspicion is starting to take root in his mind. He wonders why Il-ju kept his music box all these years instead of returning it, and he begins to suspect that she was indeed the one who planted the secret documents in Yoon-soo's backpack years ago. For now, though, it's just a theory. Hyung-woo asks Yoon-soo to meet him privately. He hands her a precious music box left to him by his grandmother and tells her something she never expected. He wants to let go of his hatred. He wants to give up the revenge and take Yoon-soo's entire family abroad to start a new, peaceful life together. When Yoon-soo opens the music box, she finds 5 airplane tickets inside. Deeply moved, she agrees to leave it all behind. At first, Yoon-soo's mother and brother are dead set against the idea, but seeing how much she loves him, they eventually give their blessing. But just as they are preparing to leave for the airport, the mystery man calls Yoon-soo again. He demands she follow his orders one last time, using her daughter as a shield. But this time, Yoon-soo has had enough. She snaps back at him, declaring that she won't do a single thing he says. Her daughter is now under the personal protection of Prime Minister Suk-hyun. Hyung-woo overhears the entire conversation. Determined to protect her, he decides to play along with the mystery man's demands in secret, unaware that he's walking straight into a trap designed to test their loyalty. Meanwhile, Eun-soo and her daughter wait at the airport, but Hyung-woo is a no-show. Suddenly, the Kang family's housekeeper appears, telling Eun-soo that Hyung-woo is currently with the Prime Minister. It turns out Suk-hyun had discovered Hyung-woo went to the prosecutor's office and assumed the worst, that Hyung-woo was turning him in. But just as Suk-hyun is losing faith, Hyung-woo's mother walks in with the truth. She explains that Eun-soo was actually banned from leaving the country because she, the mother, had framed her for embezzling funds from the Eungam company. Hyung-woo only went to the prosecutor's office to clear Eun-soo's name. Suk-hyun realizes he was wrong about Hyung-woo. Feeling a rare moment of guilt, he promises to fix the travel ban so the couple can leave together. Suk-hyun insists on throwing them a grand farewell party. It seems like their nightmare is finally ending, and they will soon be living a quiet life abroad. But as always in the Kang household, a new storm is brewing. And this time, it involves Eun-soo's little daughter, Mi-irae. At the party, Il-ju's husband, Moo-hyuk, is playing with Mi-irae. Seeing that the little girl is getting sleepy, he kindly drapes his suit jacket over her to keep her warm. But when Mi-irae wakes up, she feels something in the pocket. She pulls it out and looks at it. It's the original secret document. Having seen similar-looking papers at her mother's place, the little girl thinks it belongs to her mom. She rushes off to find Yoon-soo to give it to her, but she's spotted by Il-ju. Recognizing the papers instantly, Il-ju's eyes go wide. She demands that Mi-irae hand them over immediately. Terrified by Il-ju's aggressive tone, the little girl refuses and bolts. She scrambles into a room to hide, which happens to be the bedroom of Suk-hyun's daughter Inran. Il-ju storms in after her, but she's intercepted by Inran, who demands to know why she's snooping in her room. With no other choice, Il-ju is forced to leave. Thinking she's safe, Mi-irae hides the documents inside a bright yellow handbag sitting nearby, and then runs off to find her mother. But Il-ju is waiting for her. She screams that the papers are hers, but Mi-irae doesn't believe her and runs toward the main hall. Il-ju is right on her heels, desperate to stop her. In the chaos of the chase, Il-ju accidentally crashes into a server, sending trays flying and attracting the attention of everyone at the party. Breathless and cornered, Il-ju has to think fast. She points at the terrified little girl and tells a bold-faced lie to the entire crowd. She claims Mi-rae just stole her precious wedding ring. The socialites at the party, smelling blood and drama, join the chase like a pack of wolves. The crowd corners the terrified little girl at the top of the stairs. Just as Suk-hyun arrives to stop the madness, something unthinkable happens. A hand reaches out and pushes Mi-rae from the landing. Right at that horrific moment, Eun-soo and Hyung-woo walk in hand. They witness the nightmare in real time, Mi-rae falling through the air and crashing onto the floor. Eun-soo screams and rushes her daughter to the hospital. The diagnosis is grim. While Mi-rae is alive, the severe brain hemorrhage has put her into a deep coma. The doctors don't know if she will ever wake up. Eun-soo is pushed past her breaking point. She frantically calls her daughter's name, begging her to open her eyes, until Hyung-woo is forced to physically pull her away from the bedside. But when Eun-soo returns to the room alone, she catches Il-ju red-handed, desperately searching for something. Il-ju keeps up her act, lying that the little girl stole her wedding ring. Eun-soo had already checked her daughter's clothes and found nothing. However, when she later washes Mi-rae's clothes at home, a ring suddenly falls out. Eun-soo knows immediately this is a plant. There is no way that ring was there before. She starts putting the pieces together. She remembers Il-ju's frantic searching. It wasn't about a ring. Then she recalls the last thing Mi-rae whispered in the ambulance, the yellow flower. Eun-soo remembers showing her daughter the secret documents and explaining that the yellow flower symbol represented a hidden truth. The realization hits her like a lightning bolt. Mi-rae found the original documents. That's why Il-ju was so desperate. That's why she chased her. That's why Mi-rae fell. Fueled by a cold, burning desire for revenge, Eun-soo decides to make Il-ju pay. She sheds her victim persona, puts on a stunning gown, and does her makeup to perfection. She arrives at a high society gala and makes a bold move. She walks right up to Suk-hyun and takes his arm. It's her debut in this world of power. When it's time to choose an opening speaker, Eun-soo boldly volunteers. Suk-hyun and Il-ju's father-in-law, Sum-young, agree to let her take the stage. During her speech, she intentionally mentions her close relationship with Il-ju, hinting darkly that she knows all of her deepest secrets. She then invites Il-ju onto the stage. To the cameras, they look like best friends sharing a warm hug, but in Il-ju's ear, Eun-soo whispers a chilling warning. I have so much more to say about you. But the drama doesn't stop there. A man in the crowd, the prosecutor who handled Eun-soo's case years ago, recognizes her. He starts insulting her loudly, calling her a criminal and a liar in front of everyone. Hyung-woo won't stand for it. He steps in and shuts the man up with a powerful right hook to the jaw. Wanting to avoid further conflict, Eun-soo pulls Hyung-woo outside, even as the prosecutor continues to scream profanities at their backs. But then, Suk-hyun steps in. He walks right up to the prosecutor and delivers a stinging slap across the face that echoes through the room. He warns the man that Eun-soo is his personal secretary, and if he wants to keep his job, he better keep his mouth shut. Suk-hyun follows Eun-soo and Hyung-woo outside. Hyung-woo tells Suk-hyun to stay out of their business, but Eun-soo shocks them both. She cuts Hyung-woo off and coldly announces that they have broken up. To prove her point, she turns away from her first love, grabs Suk-hyun's arm, and walks off with the powerful old man. After the party, Suk-hyun drives Eun-soo back to the hospital. But as they arrive, they find Hyung-woo waiting in the shadows. Hyung-woo warns Suk-hyun to stay away from her. But Suk-hyun, sensing a victory, doesn't back down. He looks Hyung-woo in the eye and says, "If you can't protect her, then I will take care of her." In that moment, Eun-soo sees it clearly in his eyes. Suk-hyun has fallen for her, and she is going to use that to burn his world down. Determined to reel Suk-hyun in once and for all, Eun-soo plays her most dangerous card. One evening, she fakes being heavily intoxicated, stumbling and trembling right in front of him. As she accidentally loses her balance, Suk-hyun rushes over to catch her. Eun-soo seizes the moment, collapsing into his arms and playing the role of the fragile, broken woman perfectly. But just as Suk-hyun is about to lead her inside, Hyung-woo suddenly appears out of the shadows. He grabs Eun-soo and drags her away. But the second they are out of sight, Eun-soo's drunken state vanishes instantly. She is livid, screaming at Hyung-woo for ruining her plan. She was seconds away from fully capturing Suk-hyun's heart. Hyung-woo begs her to stop this madness before she gets hurt, but Eun-soo won't hear it. She tells him coldly that as long as she can get justice for her daughter, she is willing to do whatever it takes. Right then, Eun-soo gets a terrifying call. Her daughter's condition has taken a turn for the worse. She rushes to the hospital, and Suk-hyun follows close behind. Overcome with grief and fear for her child, Eun-soo breaks down and cries on Suk-hyun's shoulder. He gently holds her, offering comfort, a scene that is secretly witnessed by the family's head housekeeper. As soon as Mire's condition stabilizes, Suk-hyun's son, Ail-do, storms into the hospital room with a group of thugs. He screams at Eun-soo, accusing her of being a parasite using his father's money to pay for her daughter's medical bills. In a moment of pure evil, he actually orders his men to pull the plug on Mire's ventilator. Eun-soo lunges forward to stop them, but Ail-do strikes her across the face with a powerful slap, sending her crashing to the floor. Just as he is about to cause more chaos, Ail-do appears. But she isn't there to save Eun-soo. She offers her a massive pile of cash, telling her to take the money and disappear from the Kang family forever. After they leave, Eun-soo's mother asks her if she really has feelings for Suk-hyun. Eun-soo remains silent, but unknown to them, Suk-hyun is standing outside the door, listening to every word. When they are alone, Suk-hyun asks Eun-soo if she has been treated unfairly. Eun-soo plays the victim perfectly, saying with a sigh that people like her, who have ambitions they shouldn't have, deserve to be beaten. She tells him she's resigning and leaving the house for good, but Suk-hyun has fallen completely for her trap. He declares that he will never let anyone speak to her like that again. He tells her he will be her mighty tree to lean on and the great shadow that will protect her child. He tells her that if she becomes a member of his family, no one can ever touch her again. Then he drops the ultimate bombshell. He asks her to marry him. Ignoring Hyungwoo's desperate pleas, Eun-soo accepts the proposal, driven by her singular focus on making Il-ju pay. Suk-hyun's children try everything to stop the marriage, but the old man is immovable. Soon, they hold a simple wedding ceremony. While the couple says their vows, every guest in the room is harboring their own dark thoughts. Outside, Hyungwoo watches the woman he loves marry his enemy, feeling as though 1,000 knives are piercing his heart. On their wedding night, Eun-soo is nervously wondering how she will get through the night. Suddenly, Hyungwoo breaks into the room, desperate to talk to her. Just then, Suk-hyun walks in. He coldly tells Hyungwoo to leave before he calls the guards. In a fit of blind rage, fueled by years of hatred and the pain of losing Eun-soo, Hyungwoo lunges at Suk-hyun and grabs him by the throat. Hyungwoo loses all control, strangling the old man until Suk-hyun loses consciousness. Terrified by what he's done, Hyungwoo finally lets go. At that moment, a heavy trophy on top of a cabinet begins to wobble, about to fall right onto Suk-hyun's head. Without thinking, Eun-soo throws her own body over Suk-hyun to shield him. The heavy trophy crashes directly onto her back. Ignoring the agonizing pain, Eun-soo screams at Hyungwoo to run before it's too late. But before he can react, the rest of the Kang family bursts into the room. Suk-hyun's security calls the police, and Hyungwoo is dragged away in handcuffs. After receiving medical attention, Suk-hyun finally wakes up. His first concern is Eun-soo, who has fainted from her injuries. As he recovers, he realizes that even though Eun-soo used her body to protect him, her last words were a frantic plea for Hyungwoo to escape. He realizes that despite being his wife, she is still deeply in love with Hyungwoo. Later, Suk-hyun's rival, Soo-myung, pays him a visit. The two powerful men sit down, not as friends, but as conspirators, discussing exactly how they are going to deal with Hyungwoo once and for all. Suk-hyun is on edge. He knows Hyungwoo is holding on to some of his darkest secrets, and if those secrets ever get out, it could ruin him. Soo-myung, playing his own game, steps in and promises to handle it, making sure Hyungwoo rots in prison for a long time. Little do they know, Eun-soo is just outside the door, hearing every word of their conspiracy. When Suk-hyun enters the bedroom, Eun-soo quickly shuts her eyes and fakes being asleep. After he checks on her, she wakes up and asks about Suk-hyun's well-being before carefully steering the conversation toward Hyungwoo. Suk-hyun decides to test her loyalty. He asks her directly, "What should we do with Hyungwoo? Should I set him free or let him stay in jail?" Eun-soo plays the part of the devoted wife perfectly. She tells him she doesn't want Hyungwoo released because she's terrified he'll try to hurt Suk-hyun again. This display of concern completely wipes away Suk-hyun's doubts. But in reality, Eun-soo's mind is racing, trying to figure out a way to get Hyungwoo out of that cell. Now that she's the official lady of the house, Eun-soo has full control over the family's finances. This causes a hilariously sudden shift in the house. The sister-in-law, who used to bully Eun-soo relentlessly, is now a total kiss-up. She personally brings Eun-soo tea and even starts calling her mother. She tries to win her over with expensive cosmetics and shares advice on how to handle the family. Il-ju is disgusted by her sister-in-law's two-faced behavior. She mocks her, pointing out that she also crawled up from a poor life and is just another woman who traded her dignity for money and power. But Eun-soo doesn't let the insults get to her. She completely ignores Il-ju, which only makes Il-ju's blood boil. Desperate to regain control, Il-ju seduces her own husband, Moo-hyuk, for the first time, using her affection as a weapon to convince him to help her kick Eun-soo out of the house. Moo-hyuk, desperate for his wife's love, agrees to the plan. Il-ju then goes to the detention center to see Hyung-woo. She pulls some strings to get his handcuffs removed and secretly hands him a set of car keys. At first, Hyung-woo is suspicious, but when Il-ju lies and says that Eun-soo was the one who asked her to do this, he decides to make a break for it. Inside the escape car, he finds a message from Eun-soo hidden inside a paper airplane. The meeting spot? Her daughter's hospital room. Back at the mansion, Il-ju and Moo-hyuk are glued to their screens, watching the hidden cameras they planted in Mi-rae's hospital room. They are shaking with anticipation, waiting to catch Eun-soo and Hyung-woo in a compromising position. If they can get footage of them together, they can show it to Suk-hyun and have Eun-soo thrown out for good. Eun-soo enters the room and is shocked to find Hyun-woo waiting there. But before they can even share a word, Suk-hyun's voice echoes from the hallway. Hyung-woo is forced to dive into a hiding spot. Suk-hyun has brought a world-class specialist from abroad to treat Mi-rae. After the exam, the whole group leaves the room together. Hyung-woo finally crawls out of hiding, looking at the little girl with a broken heart. Through the camera, Il-ju and her husband watch their plan fall apart. Suk-hyun's unexpected arrival completely ruined the affair sting. But Il-ju isn't giving up. She immediately starts plotting her next move. She decides to openly challenge Young-soo's authority in the Kong house. In a display of status, Il-ju orders a maid to wash her coffee-stained coat immediately. But Young-soo steps in and counter-orders the maid to get her some hot milk first. The poor maid is caught in a deadly tug-of-war between the two most powerful women in the house. She hesitates for a moment, weighing her options, but eventually realizes that Eun-soo is the one holding the purse strings now. She follows Eun-soo's order. As the maid heads to the kitchen, Il-ju walks downstairs and sees her coat just sitting there, ignored. She loses it, screaming for the maid to come back and answer for her defiance. When Il-ju sees the maid bringing milk to Eun-soo instead of cleaning her coat, she snaps. In a fit of rage, she swats the hot milk out of the maid's hand. The glass hits the floor with a violent crash, shattering into 1,000 pieces. She hurls her coat at the maid, screaming at her to clean it immediately instead of fetching milk. Just then, Eun-soo spots Suk-hyun appearing at the door. Sensing an opportunity to provoke Il-ju, she steps forward and whispers a lethal insult directly into her ear. Technically, I am your mother now, and unlike your mother, I am actually married to him. Losing all self-control, Il-ju delivers a stinging slap that sends Eun-soo crashing to the floor. Suk-hyun witnesses the whole thing and rushes over to check on Eun-soo. When he sees that her hands are bleeding from the broken glass, his eyes burn with fury. Eun-soo, playing the martyr, weakly says she just tripped and fell. This only makes Suk-hyun more certain that Eun-soo is protecting Il-ju after being bullied. Il-ju tries to explain that Eun-soo insulted her mother, but Suk-hyun doesn't believe a word of it. He delivers an ultimatum. Il-ju must get down on her knees and beg Eun-soo for forgiveness, or she is kicked out of the house forever. Knowing she can't lose her father's political support for the upcoming election, Il-ju is forced to swallow her pride. She kneels on the floor and begs Eun-soo for mercy. Watching the woman who hurt her daughter groveling at her feet, Il-ju feels a surge of triumph. But she knows this is just the beginning. She won't stop until Il-ju pays a much steeper price. Fuming and humiliated, Il-ju retreats to plot her next move. She goes to Eun-soo with a fake olive branch, telling her to meet at Mi-rae's hospital room at 9 p.m. She claims she will finally reveal the person who pushed her daughter. Seeing that Eun-soo seems to fall for it, Il-ju then goes straight to her father. She tells him that Eun-soo and Hyung-woo are planning a secret romantic rendezvous at the hospital tonight, insisting they are still in love. Il-ju sits back and waits, expecting her father to catch them red-handed and kick Eun-soo out. But she has a leak in her own house. A maid overheard Il-ju's plan and told Eun-soo everything. Eun-soo decides to walk right into the trap on her own terms. That night, she dresses up, says goodbye to Suk-hyun, and heads to the hospital. When she enters the room, Hyung-woo is already there. He begs her to turn back, promising to find the best doctors to save Mi-rae. Eun-soo tells him coldly that she doesn't want to see him anymore. Confused, Hyung-woo pulls out the escape note, asking if she wasn't the one who had Il-ju set him free. Before Eun-soo can even touch the paper, Suk-hyun and his assistants storm into the room. He demands to know if she's been lying to him and meeting her ex-lover in secret. Just as the tension reaches a breaking point, the police burst in with an arrest warrant. They haul Hyung-woo away, announcing they received a tip about his location from Eun-soo herself. Eun-soo looks Suk-hyun in the eye and tells him the truth. This was all a setup by Il-ju. She explains that Il-ju was the one who lured her there. Back at the mansion, Suk-hyun confronts Il-ju. As she tries to lie her way out of it, Suk-hyun's men produce a hidden camera they found planted in Mi-rae's hospital room. Il-ju realizes she's cornered. She drops the act and shows her true, venomous face, mocking Eun-soo. Suk-hyun is disgusted, shouting that he has raised a snake. He refuses to look at her again and officially kicks her out of the house, sending her back to her husband's family. Now, Suk-hyun wants to ensure he can live a long life with Eun-soo. He decides to undergo a dangerous heart surgery. Despite everyone in the family begging him not to take the risk, the old man is determined to go through with it. He will do anything to stay by Eun-soo's side, unaware that she is the one leading him to his downfall. As Eun-soo watches Suk-hyun being wheeled into the operating room, she prays with everything she has for the surgery to be a success. But it's not just out of love, it's out of survival. Her daughter's daily medical bills are astronomical, and Suk-hyun is her only lifeline. Without him, she has nothing. But then, the nightmare begins. During the procedure, Suk-hyun's heart suddenly stops. The lack of oxygen to his brain is severe, and the doctors deliver a crushing blow. There is a high chance he will remain in a permanent vegetative state. Eun-soo collapses to the floor, her world spinning. If he dies or never wakes up, her and her daughter's lives are over. The moment the family returns home, Suk-hyun's son, Il-do, wastes no time. He corners Eun-soo in the living room and announces to everyone that as of today, he is the master of the house. After enduring his insults and humiliation, Eun-soo flees the mansion and rushes back to Suk-hyun's hospital bedside. In a fit of desperate rage, she begs his unconscious body to wake up. She tells him she needs him, not for comfort, but to help her crush Il-ju into pieces. Miraculously, as if he can hear her voice, Suk-hyun begins to stir. Images of Eun-soo flash through his mind, and he slowly, incredibly, opens his eyes. When the doctor delivers the news, Eun-soo is overcome with relief. She rushes into his room and throws her arms around him, holding him tight. But standing in the distance, Hyung-woo witnesses their intimate embrace. For a long time, he had tried to convince himself that Eun-soo only married the old man because she was forced into it. But seeing this, he laughs at his own naivety. He finally lets go of his obsession with saving her and decides to stay for one reason only: pure, unadulterated revenge. Hyung-woo goes straight to Sung-young, Il-ju's father-in-law. He looks him in the eye and exposes the truth. He knows Sung-young was the mystery man who manipulated Eun-soo into infiltrating the Kong house. Sung-young tries to deny it, but Hyung-woo reveals he knows everything about Suk-hyun's secret slush funds. He offers a deal. They team up to take Suk-hyun down once and for all. The alliance is sealed. The day Suk-hyun is discharged and returns home, he finds Il-ju has already moved back into the mansion. He's furious, berating her for defying his orders, but the drama is just beginning. Hyung-woo moves fast. He tracks down Suk-hyun's personal lawyer, Mr. Ji-yu, and hits him with evidence of illegal slush funds. Before Suk-hyun can react, he is summoned by the authorities for questioning. But he isn't the only one. Eun-soo is arrested too, charged with embezzlement and tax evasion. As they sit in the interrogation room, stunned, Hyung-woo walks in with a look of cold triumph on his face. He's been waiting for this moment for years. Eun-soo finds herself face to face with the same prosecutor who sent her to prison 6 years ago for the 2 billion won case. He mocks her ruthlessly, saying that 6 years ago she was a small-time thief, but now she's hit the jackpot with 100 billion won in illegal funds. He hurls disgusting insults at her until Hyung-woo steps in, announcing he has the authority to lead the interrogation. Hyung-woo looks at Eun-soo with pure contempt. He mocks her decision to marry Suk-hyun, asking if she ever considered this would happen when she sold herself for his money. Eun-soo doesn't fire back with anger. Instead, she begs him to stop. Even as he spits out words of hatred and mockery, she pleads with him not to let his quest for revenge consume his soul. In a final act of desperation, Eun-soo drops to her knees and begs Hyung-woo to spare Suk-hyun. Watching the whole scene through a security camera, Suk-hyun is deeply moved. He believes she is sacrificing her dignity purely to save him. He immediately starts calling every contact he has, desperate to get her out. But because of the staggering amount of money involved, 100 billion won, everyone is too terrified to help. Suk-hyun is powerful, but this time he's in a corner with no easy way out. In a moment of pure desperation, Suk-hyun realized he had no moves left. To save himself and Eun-soo, he was forced to make a deal with the devil. He reached out to Chairman Sung-young and promised him a staggering 100 billion won from his secret funds. Only after the money was promised were the two of them finally allowed to return home. Once their lives returned to a fragile state of normalcy, Eun-soo met with Hyung-woo once more. She pleaded with him to stop his crusade, fearing it would destroy his own future. But Hyung-woo was immovable. He vowed that he wouldn't stop until he personally brought Suk-hyun down. Eun-soo left the meeting feeling completely powerless. But then, a strange phone call from her mother changed everything. Her mother was complaining, asking why Eun-soo had given her Il-ju's bag. It turns out that the bright yellow handbag, the one little Mi-rae had hidden the original secret documents in, had been given to Eun-soo by Inran. Seeing that her mother liked the bag, Eun-soo had simply handed it over. But her mother, who didn't understand luxury brands and had a gambling habit, had used the bag as collateral for a debt. Her mother told her that Il-ju had actually tracked her down, claiming the bag belonged to her and demanding it back. The gears in Eun-soo's head started turning. If Il-ju was going to such extreme lengths to find that specific bag, it meant only one thing. The original documents were still inside. Eun-soo frantically ordered her driver to turn the car around and race to the location where the bag was being held. She arrived, but she was a second too late. She saw Il-ju clutching the yellow bag. Without thinking, Eun-soo lunged at her. A violent struggle broke out between the two women. They were clawing and pulling at the bag, neither willing to let go. In the chaos, Eun-soo shoved Il-ju with so much force that she lost her footing at the top of a flight of stairs. As Il-ju began to fall, Eun-soo's instincts kicked in, and she managed to grab her. With Il-ju dangling precariously over the edge, Eun-soo felt a surge of cold power. She taunted her rival, asking, "What do you think will happen if I just let go?" Eun-soo wasn't going to let her off that easily. She wanted to torture her, second by second, watching the pure terror in Il-ju's eyes. But Eun-soo knew she couldn't become a killer. She pulled Il-ju back up to safety. But the moment she was back on her feet, Il-ju turned violent. She shoved Eun-soo to the ground, snatched the bag, and ran to a corner to rip it open. But as she reached inside, her face fell. The bag was empty, except for a useless scrap of paper. Eun-soo caught up and saw the look of defeat on Il-ju's face. She knew then that the documents were gone. What neither of them knew was that when Eun-soo's mother first got the bag, she had looked inside and found a bunch of papers covered in nonsense symbols. Thinking it was just trash, she had used the secret documents as a heat-resistant coaster for her noodle pots. Realizing the game was up, Eun-soo looked Il-ju in the eye and asked the question that had haunted her for 15 years. "Was it you? Did you plant that copy in my backpack back then?" Seeing that the truth was already out, Il-ju stopped hiding. She shamelessly admitted to everything. She told Eun-soo she did it specifically to steal Hyung-woo away, and she bragged about her success. She even laughed in Eun-soo's face, saying that since there was no evidence left, there was absolutely nothing Eun-soo could do about it. Eun-soo was horrified by her total lack of a soul. She made a silent vow. She would expose this monster's true face to the world and show everyone the black heart beating inside her. Meanwhile, Suk-hyun was busy plotting his own revenge against Hyung-woo. He ordered his men to dig up any dirt they could find to send Hyung-woo back to prison for good. He had no idea that Eun-soo was standing right outside his office, listening to every word of his deadly plan. Later that night, the head housekeeper tried to report Eun-soo's suspicious behavior to Suk-hyun, but the old man was so blinded by his obsession with Eun-soo that he exploded in rage. He screamed at the housekeeper, berating her for daring to question his wife's loyalty. He was completely under Eun-soo's spell, even as she prepared to tear his life apart. Suk-hyun is so blinded by his obsession with Eun-soo that he's ready to fire his longtime housekeeper for doubting her. The housekeeper drops to her knees, begging for mercy, and Suk-hyun gives her a final, chilling warning. One more word against his wife, and she's gone for good. That night, Il-ju sneaks out to meet Hyung-woo. In a moment of lingering affection, she reaches out and tenderly adjusts his collar. She has no idea that her husband, Moo-hyuk, is watching from the shadows, his heart hardening with every second. At the same time, Eun-soo is making a move of her own. She sneaks into Suk-hyun's study and successfully steals the secret file he's been building to destroy Hyung-woo. The next morning is the day of Suk-hyun's high-stakes press conference. But as the reporters gather at the door, Suk-hyun realizes the file is missing. He is livid. He gathers the entire family, demanding to know who stole the evidence. Il-ju immediately points the finger at Eun-soo, noting that Eun-soo has a desk inside the study and has the most access. Suk-hyun doesn't want to believe it, but he has no choice. He orders his men to search Eun-soo's belongings. Just as they are about to find the hidden documents, Moo-hyuk walks in, clutching Il-ju's handbag. He drops a bombshell, telling Suk-hyun that Il-ju was the last one out of the house and that he personally saw her meeting Hyung-woo late at night. He reaches into his wife's bag and pulls out the missing file. With the cameras waiting, Suk-hyun has no time for a family feud. He grabs the file and rushes to the press conference. On stage, Suk-hyun shocks the world. He admits he has a 100 billion won slush fund, but claims it was meant for charity before Hyung-woo and President Chun conspired to steal it. He opens the folder to present the definitive proof that will send Hyung-woo to prison, but he freezes. The 3 most critical pages of evidence are missing. Someone has sabotaged him at the last possible second. Here's what really happened. Yoon-soo stole the file, but after overhearing Moo-hyuk and Il-ju arguing about her late-night meeting, Yoon-soo planted the file in Il-ju's bag to frame her. And those 3 missing pages? Yoon-soo secretly handed them over to Hyung-woo. Hyung-woo is stunned. He asks why she would help him after she ruthlessly walked out on their love. Yoon-soo looks at him coldly and says she's only doing it to repay him for taking care of her daughter. Now, she tells him, "We are even. Don't ever owe me anything again." As she drives away, the hatred in Hyung-woo's eyes starts to flicker with doubt. Later, Hyung-woo returns to Emi-rae's hospital room, and he finds something that makes his blood run cold. Sitting right there on the table is the original secret document. He trembles as he holds it. This is the piece of paper that cost his father his life 15 years ago. Back at the mansion, Il-ju corners Yoon-soo, screaming, "It was you, wasn't it? You framed me." Yoon-soo doesn't even try to hide it. She gives Il-ju a sharp, triumphant smile and admits everything. She tells Il-ju that she simply did exactly what Il-ju did to her 15 years ago, planted a document to ruin a life. Hyung-woo rushes to the Kang house to confront Yoon-soo. He demands to know why the original document was just sitting in the hospital room. Yoon-soo is genuinely shocked to see it. She has no idea how the original got there and tries to grab it from him. But before they can finish their argument, Suk-hyun arrives, forcing Yoon-soo to act like nothing is wrong and leave with him. Later that day, while Yoon-soo and Suk-hyun are visiting President Chun's house, Yoon-soo takes a massive risk. She sneaks into Hyung-woo's private room, frantically searching for that original document. Just as she thinks she's found it, Hyung-woo appears in the doorway, holding the file. He lunges at her, pinning her against the wall in a tense, breathless confrontation. Terrified and overwhelmed, Yoon-soo manages to break free and flees the room, leaving the truth still hanging in the air. Hyung-woo confronts his mother, demanding to know who else is aware of the massive secret slush fund. He is blindsided to learn that Yoon-soo knows everything. His mother is convinced that Eun-soo is only after the money, that she's so obsessed with that fortune, she didn't even blink at the 100 billion won they dealt with earlier. Hyung-woo immediately rushes to the hospital. He calls Eun-soo outside, not wanting to start a screaming match in front of her unconscious daughter. He grills her, asking, "Is this document just about the money for you? Are you really just hunting for that slush fund?" Eun-soo doesn't care what he thinks. She just wants those papers. Hyung-woo looks at her coldly and asks, "If I give this to you, what do I get in return?" Eun-soo's answer is chilling. "Anything you want." "I want your life," Hyung-woo says. Without hesitating for a single second, Eun-soo agrees. She says she'll give him her life, as long as he hands over the document first. Hyung-woo, disgusted, turns to walk away. But Eun-soo snaps. She chases after him, drops to her knees, and clings to his legs, sobbing. She begs him for the papers, telling him she needs them to punish the person who destroyed her life, her father's life, and her daughter's future. Hyung-woo looks down at her and asks, "Do you finally know who did it? Who is the murderer from 15 years ago?" But Eun-soo stays silent, only trying to grab the folder from his hand. At this point, Hyung-woo is convinced she's just putting on an act to manipulate him. In a fit of rage, he hurls the documents into the middle of a busy road. Disregarding her own safety, Eun-soo lunges into traffic to retrieve the papers. Hyung-woo sees a car speeding directly toward her and panics. He sprints forward, tackling Eun-soo and pulling her to safety just in time. He screams at her, asking if these papers are really worth more than her life. But Eun-soo doesn't even look at him. She just grabs the documents and runs. Later, Hyung-woo returns to President Chun's house and overhears the chairman berating his son, Moo-hyuk. The chairman is furious that Moo-hyuk has been married to Il-ju for so long but hasn't gathered any useful intel. Moo-hyuk fires back, revealing he found the original documents hidden inside Il-ju's music box. He admits he stole them, but then a freak accident happened. Eun-soo's daughter, Mi-rae, took them by mistake. That was the real reason Il-ju chased the little girl, leading to her accident. Moo-hyuk says the documents are lost now, as he searched Eun-soo's house and found nothing. Listening from behind the door, Hyung-woo is paralyzed as the puzzle pieces finally fall into place. He finally understands the full, dark truth. 15 years ago, Il-ju stole the original documents and planted the copies in Eun-soo's bag, which led to his father's death and destroyed their future together. Hyung-woo finds Eun-soo and demands to know why she kept this a secret and tries to take revenge alone. He offers to help her finish it, but Eun-soo refuses. She wants to do it all herself. When he hears she's planning to tell Suk-hyun everything, Hyung-woo tries to stop her. He warns her that Suk-hyun will never turn his back on his own daughter, no matter what Eun-soo says. But Eun-soo is blinded by rage and won't listen. She storms back to the Kang mansion. Right in front of Suk-hyun and Eun-soo, she drops the bomb. She exposes Eun-soo as the person who framed her 15 years ago and accuses her of causing Mi-rae's accident because she was chasing the stolen documents. Unsu looks at the papers in Unsu's hand and feels a surge of pure panic. But outwardly, she's a pro. She keeps her cool, denying every single word and weaving a web of lies to prove her innocence. Unsu is stunned by just how shameless Unsu can be. Sukhyun finally silences the shouting. He tells Unsu he wants to speak with her in private. Once the door is closed, he looks his daughter in the eye and asks if it's true. Under the crushing pressure of her father's gaze, Il-ju finally breaks. She can't lie anymore. She is forced to admit that even as a child, she was so obsessed with Youngwoo. Il-ju finally breaks down and confesses everything to her father. She admits that her obsession with Youngwoo was so deep that she planted the secret documents in Unsu's bag 15 years ago just to destroy her. She also admits to keeping the original documents all this time, and in a desperate attempt to get them back, she chased Unsu's daughter and pushed her. Sukhyun's heart shatters. He is devastated to learn that his own daughter is capable of such monstrous acts. But there's a second blow. He realizes that Unsu never loved him. She only married him to use him as a weapon for her revenge. The shock is so intense that he can barely stand. He replays every word Unsu and Mirai ever said to him, caught in a brutal internal struggle between his love for his wife and the reality of his daughter's crimes. After agonizing over the decision, Sukhyun makes a cold, calculated choice. As Il-ju is preparing to leave, Unsu corners her, screaming for justice. But Il-ju is smug. She knows that blood is thicker than water. She tells Unsu that, at the end of the day, she is Sukhyun's flesh and blood, while Unsu is just a woman who married him for an agenda. Unsu believes Sukhyun still has a conscience, but her world is crushed when he calls Il-ju into his room. With the presidential election looming, Sukhyun decides to prioritize power over justice. He tells Il-ju that no matter what she's done, he forgives her. Not only that, he vows to help her sweep all her crimes under the rug. Overhearing this from behind the door, Unsu feels her heart being ripped into pieces. The fallout is immediate. Word gets out that Unsu was using Sukhyun, and she is ruthlessly kicked out of the Kong mansion. Even worse, the medical support for her comatose daughter is cut off. Mirai is no longer welcome in the VIP wing, and her life-saving treatments are halted. Right at this moment, the hospital calls with more bad news. Mirai's condition is critical. Unsu rushes to the hospital, but when she hears her daughter might not make it, the shock is too much. She faints on the spot. Sukhyun hears the news and races to the hospital, but when he arrives, he sees Hyungwoo comforting Unsu. The sight of their intimacy fuels his jealousy. Meanwhile, the rest of the family, Il-do and Il-ju, are plotting how to get rid of Unsu for good. They decide that since she only married into the family for her daughter, the best way to get rid of her is to make the daughter disappear. Il-do and his wife take the first step, moving Mirai out of her VIP room to a general ward, essentially leaving the child to rot. When Unsu wakes up and finds her daughter's bed empty, she goes into a frantic panic. She corners Il-do and his wife, screaming for her child. They coldly tell her they just moved her to a normal ward, but when Unsu arrives there, the room is empty too. She's convinced they've kidnapped her. In a state of pure hysteria, Unsu calls the police. After a desperate search, the police track the child to a desolate warehouse. But the moment the doors swing open, it's not just the police who enter. A swarm of reporters rushes in, cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. They bombard Unsu with questions. Are you the wife of former Prime Minister Sukhyun? Is this your daughter? Unsu is paralyzed by the chaos, unable to react. But as she looks past the crowd, she spots Youngwoo. It turns out Youngwoo was the mastermind behind this media circus. He knew that Unsu was in grave danger, and that the only way to protect her was to bring the truth into the light. He called the reporters to create a PR nightmare for Sukhyun, forcing the old man to acknowledge Unsu as his wife publicly and resume her daughter's medical care to save his reputation. The plan works. Sukhyun rushes to the hospital to explain himself to Unsu. Even Il-do and his wife are forced to come and beg for her forgiveness. They swear they only moved Mirai to a general ward and had no idea how she ended up in a warehouse. Il-do even drops to his knees, pleading with Unsu to return to the Kong mansion just to stop the scandal. As the dust settles, Sukhyun approaches Unsu alone. He looks at her and hands her a single, mysterious photograph. Sukhyun hands Unsu a photograph that seems to change everything. In the image, it looks like Mirai wasn't pushed by Il-ju at all, but rather that she simply tripped and fell on her own. Unsu doesn't believe it for a second, but she knows she has to play the game. She fakes her acceptance of the truth and agrees to return to the Kong mansion, all under the watchful, clicking cameras of the gathered reporters. Once they are back inside the house, Sukhyun forces a reconciliation. He makes Unsu and Il-ju shake hands and apologize to one another. On the surface, they look like a family again, but underneath, Eunsu's heart is a storm of rage and doubt. That night, she receives a message from Hyungwoo that confirms her suspicions. He sends her the real photo, the original unedited version. It shows that Il-ju was standing inches away from the child at the moment of the fall. At that distance, she could have easily pushed the girl. Soo-hyun's photo was a total fabrication. Meanwhile, Il-ju is laser-focused on the upcoming presidential election. She thinks she's in the clear until a massive scandal explodes online. An article goes viral accusing Il-ju and Hyungwoo of having been secretly married in the past. The perfect image she's built is shattered instantly. The public pressure becomes unbearable, and Il-ju is forced to hold an emergency press conference. Just as she's delivering a powerful, defiant speech to the media, the giant screen behind her flickers to life. It's a video of her and Hyungwoo standing inside a church, exchanging secret vows to love each other forever. The footage doesn't stop there. It shows them sharing a passionate kiss, followed by a hidden recording of Soo-hyun threatening Il-ju, forcing her to break up with Hyungwoo and enter a cold political marriage instead. The room erupts. Reporters swarm Il-ju, shouting questions and demanding to know if the video is real. Overwhelmed and exposed, she flees the stage. Somewhere else, Hyungwoo watches the broadcast with a satisfied smirk. He was the one who leaked everything. But then, Hyungwoo pulls a classic move of psychological warfare. When the reporters find him, he doesn't trash Il-ju. Instead, he does an exclusive interview where he protects her. He talks about how much he cares for her and praises her as a brilliant leader who is more than capable of being president. He even asks the public to keep supporting her. Il-ju is completely blindsided by his kindness. That night, Hyungwoo goes to see her, acting like a man filled with regret for losing her. He hands her incriminating information about himself and President Chun, telling her to leak it to the press to distract the public from her own scandal and boost her campaign. Before he leaves, he tenderly brushes a strand of hair from her face, his eyes full of faked devotion. Il-ju, blinded by her own feelings and his expert manipulation, finally drops her guard. She falls right into his trap. To win back the people's trust, Il-ju follows Hyungwoo's plan and proposes a massive ecological park project to her father. She knows this will look great to voters, but she needs 10 billion won in construction funds to make it happen. Soo-hyun, desperate to see his daughter succeed, immediately agrees to tap into his secret Swiss bank accounts. However, moving that much money into the country without alerting international authorities is a nightmare. They need to launder it through multiple countries and find a clean shell company to receive the transfer. After a quick search, they find an offshore company that looks perfect on paper. Soo-hyun gives the green light to use this company for money laundering. But midway through the process, one of Soo-hyun's aides catches a red flag. The company is supposed to be based abroad, but its IP address is showing up as a domestic location right here in the country. Soo-hyun's eyes narrow. He realizes someone is catfishing them from the inside. He immediately suspects that Hyungwoo is the one behind the curtain. Soo-hyun knows only one person has the skills and the motive to track his money, Hyungwoo. Without wasting a second, he leads a raid directly to the location where the IP address is being broadcast. Eunsu, realizing Hyungwoo has been compromised, secretly fires off a warning text, begging him to run. Luckily, Hyungwoo gets the message just in time and vanishes into thin air. When Soo-hyun bursts through the door, he finds nothing but an empty room. To clear Hyungwoo of any lingering suspicion, Eunsu makes a brilliant, high-stakes move. She takes the 10 billion won she previously confiscated from Il-do's wife and replaces the offshore money Soo-hyun was expecting. When Soo-hyun hears that the 10 billion won has arrived, he's confused. The timing is too perfect. But when he checks the accounts, the money is right there. Satisfied with the offshore company's efficiency, he decides to keep doing business with them. Eunsu finally breathes a sigh of relief. Her and Hyungwoo's plan is working like a charm. But the family drama is far from over. Once Soo-hyun realizes his own son, Il-do, and his daughter-in-law embezzled 10 billion won behind his back, he doesn't hesitate. He kicks them out of the house. The disgraced couple finds themselves at a hotel, but when they try to check in, their credit cards are declined. Soo-hyun has cut them off completely. Desperate, Il-do asks about the 10 billion his wife stole, only to find out Eunsu took it. Il-do storms back to the mansion, accusing Eunsu of stealing the 10 billion won for herself. Eunsu calmly denies it, claiming she placed the money into the family fund for the greater good. But Il-do is relentless, demanding justice. Soo-hyun, needing to see for himself, decides to head down to the vault to investigate the truth. Eunsu is trapped. She makes an excuse to go change her clothes, using the moment to frantically call Hyungwoo. But there's no answer. Terrified that her double game is about to be exposed, she tries to stall for time. She even goes as far as faking a sprained ankle on the stairs, so Soo-hyun has to stop and help her. Finally, the group reaches the vault. When the heavy doors swing open, everyone is blinded by the sight of 10 billion won neatly stacked in front of them. Il-do and his wife's eyes light up with greed and regret. But Suk-hyun isn't satisfied. He says, "If this is the 10 billion my daughter-in-law stole, where is the other 10 billion that just arrived from Switzerland?" En-su's heart stops. She's speechless, thinking she's finally reached the end of the line. But then, an assistant opens another hidden door, and inside is another 10 billion won, stacked high. En-su exhales, realization hitting her. Hyung-woo pulled it off. In a moment of pathetic desperation, Il-do tries to grab a handful of cash and bolt. But as he runs, bills start falling from his hands, scattering across the floor like leaves. Suk-hyun watches his pathetic, useless son with pure disgust. He warns Il-do to never show his face again, or he'll show him no mercy. Watching the father and son turn into bitter enemies, In-su feels a surge of dark joy. She looks up and sees Hyung-woo standing not far away. They share a secret, triumphant smile. Everything is going exactly according to plan. But the real war is just beginning. Because the secret fund has been exposed, Suk-hyun is summoned to the prosecutor's office. Hyung-woo plans to use this opportunity to team up with Kwon and move in for the kill. The chairman is hesitant, knowing that Suk-hyun, even in retirement, still holds massive political power. But Hyung-woo is confident. He knows that after the 100 billion won scandal, the public and the prosecutors are hungry for blood. They just need to give the fire a little more fuel. If Suk-hyun goes to prison, he will be forced to activate his remaining secret funds to buy his way out. And when he does, all that hidden money will finally come into the light, and Kwon will have the chance to seize the entire fortune for himself. Under the calculated guidance of Chairman Kwon, Hyung-woo finally goes on national television to drop the ultimate bombshell. He exposes the dark truth from 16 years ago, how his father was forced to manage Suk-hyun's massive secret slush funds, and how Suk-hyun eventually threatened and murdered him to keep the secret buried. Hyung-woo delivers a powerful, emotional plea, calling on the public to stand against Suk-hyun and demand justice. The broadcast goes viral instantly, sparking a wave of public fury that the government can no longer ignore. Under immense pressure, the prosecutor's office is forced to summon Suk-hyun for questioning. Chairman Kwon sees this as his chance to finally lock Suk-hyun away for good. But as the interrogation begins, the presiding judge suddenly stops the prosecutors. He reveals that the Blue House, the equivalent of the White House in South Korea, has called to intervene. The judge warns that if they continue, it will lead to a massive political crisis that could take them all down. Suk-hyun, the ever-confident puppet master, stands up with a smirk, ready to walk free once again. But just as he reaches the door, Hyung-woo storms into the room. He pulls out his phone and plays a video that changes everything. It's a hidden recording of Suk-hyun's men kidnapping Hyung-woo and using extreme violence to try and force his silence. Hyung-woo looks Suk-hyun in the eye and announces a new charge. He is officially accusing the former prime minister of attempted murder. The evidence is undeniable. Suk-hyun is hauled off to prison. With her husband behind bars, Eun-su is now the acting head of the Kang family. She is finally in a position of power, and she's ready to use it to destroy Il-ju, the woman who made her daughter a vegetable. Her first move, a lethal honey trap. Eun-su notices that Il-ju's husband, Moo-yuk, has returned to the house. She immediately calls Il-ju, telling her that a maid has entered Moo-yuk's private room and things look suspicious. As soon as she hangs up, Eun-su gives her secret orders to the maid. She is to bring tea to Moo-yuk and use her charms to seduce him. The maid enters the room and starts flirting aggressively with Moo-yuk. Moo-yuk, who is already drowning in frustration and resentment towards his wife, finds himself tempted by the attention. In a moment of weakness, he lunges toward her. The maid, following Eun-su's script, intentionally collapses onto the bed and pulls him down with her, making it look like they are in the heat of a scandalous affair. Right at that perfect, agonizing moment, Il-ju bursts into the room. She freezes, staring at her husband and the maid in a compromising position. Il-ju doesn't love Moo-yuk, but seeing him with a lower-class maid is a stinging blow to her pride. To her, this betrayal is like a poison-tipped needle to the heart. Il-ju erupts in a scream, demanding a divorce on the spot. Moo-hyuk desperately tries to explain that it's not what it looks like, but given all the tension and secrets between them, Il-ju refuses to hear a single word. After thinking it over, Il-ju decides to play a dangerous game of public relations. She meets Hyung-woo and hands him the photos of her husband, Moo-hyuk, in a compromising position with the maid. She wants Hyung-woo to leak these photos to the press. Her plan? To paint herself as the tragic, betrayed wife and win the sympathy vote from the public. Hyung-woo acts hesitantly at first, telling her that her reputation has already taken enough hits, but Il-ju is insistent. Playing his part to perfection, Hyungwoo fakes deep concern, telling her he's only worried she'll get hurt. Blinded by what she thinks is true love, Il-ju tenderly hugs him from behind, convinced he's the only one on her side. The plan works, at least initially. The photos go viral, and Il-ju gives a tearful interview, admitting her marriage was a political arrangement, but claiming she always tried to be a faithful wife. She plays the victim so well that, as predicted, her approval ratings begin to climb. To thank Hyungwoo, Il-ju takes him out to dinner. Sensing that the moment is ripe, Hyungwoo drops a massive bombshell. He tells her he wants to take everything away from Eun-soo as revenge. He suggests that Il-ju hand over the massive slush funds Eun-soo is currently managing, so they can have both the power and the money for themselves. To seal the deal, he pulls out an engagement ring and asks her to marry him. Il-ju is so moved, she breaks into tears. Completely blinded by her feelings, she agrees to every word of his plan. Back at home, Il-ju hands Moo-yuk the divorce papers. She promises him she focus only on the government from now on and stay away from Hyungwoo. Moo-yuk truly loves Il-ju and can't stand to see her unhappy, so he finally agrees to sign. But a secret this big can't stay buried for long. Moo-yuk finds out that Il-ju was the one who leaked the affair photos to ruin his reputation. Enraged by her cold-blooded betrayal, he decides to burn her world down. He goes to the media and reveals that Il-ju and Hyungwoo have been having an affair behind his back all along, releasing the photos of them kissing as definitive proof. The scandal explodes overnight. Il-ju's approval ratings don't just drop, they crater. She becomes the face of a massive cheating scandal, and her dream of becoming president drifts further away than ever before. Furious, she storms into Moo-yuk's office to confront him. But Moo-yuk isn't the pushover husband anymore. He coldly tells her he knows she was just using him, and he's done being her pawn. With her political career in ruins, Il-ju is panicking. Meanwhile, Eun-soo visits Sukhyun in prison. She plays the role of the devoted wife, telling him she's brought his son and daughter-in-law back into the mansion so the family can stand together. Sukhyun praises her, but he's still worried about Il-ju. Eun-soo assures him that the affair rumors aren't true, but then Sukhyun drops a shocker. He wants Il-ju kicked out of the house. He has discovered that she took money from the Ji-yu Kang fund and split it with Hyungwoo. Eun-soo returns to the Kang mansion and gathers the family to break the news. When the other siblings find out that Il-ju and Hyungwoo secretly split 20 billion won for themselves, they lose it. Fueled by greed and rage, they swarm Il-ju, physically dragging her toward the door to kick her out. But Il-ju, still arrogant and delusional, screams at them that it doesn't matter. She is still the only true heir to the Kang fortune. Despite her pleas, Sukhyun's decree was absolute. Il-ju was forced to leave the mansion immediately, stripped of all her assets, including her luxury car. She found herself wandering the streets aimlessly, calling Hyungwoo over and over, but he never picked up. With nowhere else to turn, she went to the detention center to beg her father for help. She tried to convince him that the affair rumors were a lie, fabricated by Moo-hyuk to ruin her. But Sukhyun had reached his limit. In a fit of cold fury, he officially disowned her, severing their father-daughter bond right then and there. Left with nothing, Il-ju finally received a call from Hyungwoo. He told her he was busy with something important, and her delusional mind immediately jumped to a conclusion. She thought he was preparing the secret wedding he had promised. Filled with hope, she put on a white wedding dress and rushed to the church, expecting a romantic surprise. But what was waiting for her wasn't a wedding. It was a nightmare. As she walked in, the church screens weren't playing a montage of their love. They were broadcasting the intimate affair photos that Moo-hyuk had leaked. As she stood there in shock, a group of local gossiping women flooded into the church, pointing at her and hurling cruel insults. Realizing she had been set up, Il-ju fled the church in tears. Outside, she finally saw Hyungwoo. For a split second, she still thought he was there to marry her, but he finally dropped the mask. He revealed the cold, hard truth. He knew she was the one who stole his father's documents 15 years ago, sparking the chain of tragedies that destroyed his life. He confessed that he had only worked for the Kang family all those years to plot his revenge. He told her he almost stayed fooled forever, but he happened to overhear the conversation between Moo-yuk and his father. Il-ju tried to claim she did it all for love, but she finally saw the truth. Hyungwoo had used her to get to her father. She had lost everything. Desperate and broken, she went to Eun-soo. She didn't just admit to planting the documents in Eun-soo's backpack, she also revealed that Hyungwoo knew the truth and was using her for revenge. Internally, Eun-soo was mocking her. This was exactly what she and Hyungwoo had planned together. However, knowing Sukhyun might still support his daughter after he got out of prison, Eun-soo suppressed her hatred. She faked a look of forgiveness, promising to speak well of Il-ju to Sukhyun. Later, Eun-soo went to visit Sukhyun in prison. But mid-conversation, Sukhyun suddenly turned pale and collapsed. He was rushed to the emergency room, where doctors diagnosed him with drug poisoning. As the only person present, Yeonsu became the prime suspect. The police launched an immediate investigation, sneering that a young woman marrying a man 30 years her senior must have a dark motive. They were ready to arrest her on the spot. Luckily, Hyung-woo arrived just in time. He stood his ground, calling out the police for attempting an arrest without a proper warrant. Right then, news came that Suk-hyun had regained consciousness. Eun-soo rushed to his bedside. As she arrived, the police followed, asking Suk-hyun directly if his wife had poisoned him. Without a moment's hesitation, Suk-hyun denied it, clearing her name. Finally, the day arrived for Suk-hyun's final sentencing. While everyone else was tense, Eun-soo remained eerily calm. This piqued Suk-hyun's curiosity. Eun-soo explained that she had to keep a cool head so she could lead everyone through the crisis. Suk-hyun was impressed and felt he could truly trust her. He asked her for one final favor. He mentioned a specific book he had been reading while in prison and said he had missed the return deadline. He asked Eun-soo to take the book and deliver it to a specific bank for him. He looked at her with a heavy gaze and said he owed a great debt to someone. Suk-hyun's plan is now in motion, and Eun-soo is his hands on the outside. She quickly locates the book he mentioned and finds a hidden string of coded symbols written on the very last page. Following the code's instructions, she heads to the bank and retrieves a high-priority document from a private vault. But the moment she steps out of the bank, she's intercepted by a group of shadowy men. They whisk her away to a remote, desolate location. Before she's allowed to meet their leader, they force a blindfold over her eyes. Once they reach their destination, a man recites a secret password. Eun-soo confirms the code and hands over the document. Just like that, 100 billion won is unlocked from a Swiss bank account. The money is funneled through Hyung-woo's laundering company and moved to Eun-soo's art gallery. From there, the cash is loaded and ready for transport. But while the vehicle is on the move, it's suddenly intercepted by a police car sent by Chairman Kwon. While the driver is being questioned, a masked man slips into the van and speeds away with the fortune. Hyung-woo is livid. He knows immediately that Kwon went rogue to steal the money for himself. He storms into Kwon's office, accusing him of making Suk-hyun suspicious of their laundering operation. But Kwon doesn't care. He sneers that Suk-hyun is rotting in a prison cell, and that if he wants to get out, he'll just have to keep pumping out more money. What Kwon doesn't know is that the predator is already at the door. Suddenly, the door swings open, and there stands Suk-hyun. Kwon and Hyung-woo are paralyzed with shock as the man they thought was neutralized stares them down. Suk-hyun has been released early on medical grounds because his condition took a turn for the worse. He knows everything. He knows Kwon and Hyung-woo have been playing him, and he vows to make them pay for their betrayal. But he's a strategist. He knows he needs a loyal soldier to help him fight this war. Meanwhile, Il-ju is desperate to get back into her father's good graces. She pulls a classic stunt, getting blackout drunk until she's rushed to the hospital. Stripped of her VIP status, she's forced to stay in a crowded general ward. Even though he disowned her, Suk-hyun can't fully sever the bond of blood. He visits her, and Il-ju breaks down in tears. She confesses her mistakes and claims she finally sees Hyung-woo's true manipulative face. She begs for one last chance. Suk-hyun's heart softens. After all, she is his daughter. He tells her he'll forgive her on one condition. She must forget Hyung-woo and remarry Moo-hyuk. He needs the power of the Kwon family's media empire to fight back. Il-ju wastes no time. She goes to Chairman Kwon and offers him a deal he can't refuse. She'll return to Moo-hyuk and give Kwon full access to all of Suk-hyun's secret slush funds once she regains her father's trust and becomes president. Kwon, fueled by greed, immediately agrees to the alliance. Kwon then heads to his son's office and drops a hint, mentioning he set up a blind date for Il-ju tonight. Moo-hyuk is instantly jealous, demanding to know why his father is trying to ship her off to another man. Kwon scoffs, saying Il-ju offered him too much to say no. Moo-hyuk, still hopelessly in love with the woman who ruined him, can't help himself. That night, he storms into the bar where Il-ju is meeting her date. As he watches from a distance, he hears Il-ju telling the man that she hasn't forgotten her ex-husband. She sighs, saying she still feels guilty about Moo-hyuk and will never forget how good he was to her. Hearing this, Moo-hyuk's resolve melts. Seeing Il-ju leave with her date, Moo-hyuk couldn't control his jealousy. He chased after them and angrily drove the other man away. It was exactly what Il-ju had planned, a perfect trap. Moo-hyuk fell right into her arms, and the two of them spent the night together. The next day, Il-ju and her ex-husband returned to the mansion. She immediately reported to her father that she and Moo-hyuk had reconciled. She vowed that from now on, she would use all her power to make Hyung-woo pay for everything he had done. However, a wave of panic hit Il-ju when she learned that Eun-soo's daughter might actually wake up. At the same time, Suk-hyun finally discovered the horrifying truth. It was indeed Il-ju who had pushed the child. Meanwhile, Eun-soo and Hyung-woo found themselves lost in memories of their past. Hyung-woo remembered his mother's warning that staying connected to Eun-soo was a death sentence for them both. But after struggling with his heart, he couldn't stay away and went to see her at the hospital. Just then, Sukhyun arrived. As he opened the hospital room door, he caught Eunsu and Hyungwoo in an intimate moment, about to kiss. The sight was like a dagger to his heart. He painfully realized that Eunsu had been playing him from the very beginning. She never had any real feelings for him. After talking to Hyunwoo, Eunsu realized it was time to escape the Kang family. Her only fear was her daughter's medical treatment, but once Hyungwoo assured her he had a plan to handle the costs, she didn't hesitate. She went straight to Sukhyun and demanded a divorce. The next day, as news arrived that Mi-rae's condition was finally improving, Sukhyun prepared to go to the hospital. But as he reached the door, he received a mysterious package from Eunsu. Inside was a shocking note. It revealed that Il-ju had secretly sided with his enemy, Chairman Kwan. Eunsu had bugged Kwan's phone and sent Sukhyun the recording. Stunned, Sukhyun returned to his room, only to catch Il-ju red-handed, ransacking his office for secrets. He looked at her with pure disappointment and told her he never wanted to see her face again. As Sukhyun's health and memory began to fade into a blur, Eunsu's daughter continued to make a miraculous recovery. For Il-ju, this was a death sentence. She tried everything in her power to sabotage the child's treatment, but Sukhyun had already outsmarted her. He had secretly flown in world-class experts, and because of his help, Mi-rae's condition was better than ever. Mi-rae could now move her hands and even draw. Eunsu took one of Mi-rae's drawings and shoved it in front of Il-ju's face. Il-ju turned pale with terror. The drawing depicted a woman in a red dress and a black jacket, pushing a small child down the stairs. It was a perfect match for the outfit Il-ju had worn on the night of the party. The evidence was literally in the hands of a child. Still suspicious of the bond between Eunsu and Hyungwoo, Sukhyun decided to set a final, deadly trap. He staged a scenario to make Hyungwoo believe that he had kidnapped Eunsu. He threatened Hyungwoo, demanding the return of the 100 billion won he had taken from the slush fund, or else Eunsu would pay the price. Hyungwoo initially tried to act cold, laughing it off and claiming he had no relationship with Eunsu. But the moment he was out of Sukhyun's sight, he panicked. He tried every possible way to contact Eunsu, but she was nowhere to be found. When he rushed to the hospital and discovered that Mi-rae had also vanished, he knew he was out of moves. To save the woman he loved, Hyungwoo was forced to surrender to Sukhyun. Sukhyun ordered him to come alone, leave his cell phone behind, and go to a designated location to hand over the money. But here was the twist. Sukhyun had actually moved Eunsu and her daughter to a different hospital for their safety. It turns out Sukhyun had successfully brought in world-class specialists to treat Mi-rae, and she had been moved to a different, high-security hospital for her exams. Back at the mansion, Sukhyun sat in the shadows, waiting for Hyungwoo to walk straight into his trap. He dispatched Moo-hyuk to the secret vault to wait for Hyungwoo and finish him off. However, Hyungwoo managed to find a gap in the security and forced Moo-hyuk to leave the area. At the same time, Eunsu accidentally discovered that Sukhyun had started a rumor that she was missing. She immediately realized the game he was playing and raced to find Hyungwoo. Knowing exactly where he'd go, she sped toward the vault. She arrived just in time to save Hyungwoo from a deadly mistake. In a moment of pure steel, she physically pushed him out of the vault and locked herself inside. She screamed at him to leave and contact the prosecutor's office immediately. Her plan? To tell them she was being held captive in the vault. If the prosecutor saw her trapped with those illegal funds, Sukhyun would be headed straight back to prison. When Sukhyun finally arrived at the vault, he was stone-cold calm. But when the doors swung open, his jaw dropped. Instead of finding a cornered Hyungwoo, he found his own wife, Isu. She lied through her teeth, claiming she had received a mysterious phone call saying there was a problem with the family funds, so she rushed there to check. Sukhyun didn't buy a word of it. He began to interrogate her, closing the distance step by step, demanding the truth. But before he could break her, the prosecutor stormed in. They arrested Sukhyun on the spot for illegal possession of funds and for the suspected kidnapping of Isu. In a moment of raw jealousy, Sukhyun ignored the handcuffs and asked her one final question. "Do you still love Hyungwoo?" Isu denied it, but Sukhyun exploded in a rage, demanding to know how Hyungwoo had managed to vanish. Just as Isu was running out of excuses, Hyungwoo's mother appeared, in handcuffs. She was being led away by the police, but as she passed them, she put on a terrifying performance. She screamed at Isu, accusing her of destroying Hyungwoo's life and helping Sukhyun expose their secret fund. She hurled a curse at both of them, screaming that they would never live in peace. Sukhyun watched this and felt a wave of guilt. He believed he had wrongly accused Isu. He asked her why she hadn't told him the truth. Eunsu seized the opportunity, bursting into faked tears and sobbing that no matter what she did, she could never earn his trust. What Sukhyun didn't know was that this was a masterstroke of sacrifice. Hyungwoo's mother knew this was a trap set by Sukyeon and that Eun-soo had already been framed by Ilju. Carrying a heavy guilt for everything she had put Eun-soo through, the mother decided to become the scapegoat. She knew Sukyeon would use his connections to get out of jail quickly, and if Eun-soo was seen as his enemy, her life would be over. So the mother chose to go to prison in Eun-soo's place, effectively buying Eun-soo's loyalty in Sukyeon's eyes. As predicted, Sukyeon was released shortly after. But between Sukyeon's constant suspicion and Ilju's return to the house, Eun-soo had reached her limit. She officially asked Sukyeon for a divorce. However, Sukyeon's health was failing rapidly. His dementia was worsening, and he was losing his sense of time and place. One day, he called Eun-soo in a panic, telling her he was lost and didn't know where he was. Eun-soo hesitated. She wanted to be done with him, but remembering his past breakdowns, she eventually grabbed her coat and went out to find him. The moment Eun-soo left the hospital, Ilju saw her opening. She snuck into Ray's room. She had learned from her father that the child was showing signs of recovery, and she was terrified. If Ray woke up, she would be the star witness who could send Ilju to prison for life. Ilju prepared to move in and silence the girl forever. But as Ilju leaned over the bed, the unthinkable happened. Ray's eyes suddenly snapped open. She stared directly at Ilju with a look of pure recognition. Paralyzed with horror, Ilju turned and fled the room like a ghost was chasing her. Later that night, Eun-soo received a strange phone call. She rushed to the location described and found Sukyeon wandering alone. He looked like a shell of the powerful man he once was. His memory was almost entirely gone, and his mind was a fog of confusion. In that vast, empty space of his consciousness, only one thing remained clear: the image of Eun-soo. However, just as Sukyeon is about to take Eun-soo home, he suddenly snaps back to his senses. He realizes with horror that his condition is deteriorating faster than he ever imagined. He goes to see a specialist, and the news is grim. There is no cure left. At this rate, within a few short months, he won't even remember who Eun-soo is. Determined to use his last moments of clarity for her, Sukyeon decides to give Eun-soo the justice she deserves. He organizes a massive press conference. Standing before the public and the flashing cameras, he prepares to drop the ultimate truth bomb. He begins to confess that his own daughter, Ilju, was the monster who pushed Eun-soo's daughter down the stairs. But before he can finish the sentence, Ilju storms onto the stage. She looks the crowd in the eye and delivers a lethal lie. She tells the world that her father is suffering from advanced Alzheimer's. She claims he is no longer in his right mind and that he is being brainwashed and manipulated by Eun-soo. Sukyeon is paralyzed. He never expected his own daughter to gaslight him so ruthlessly in front of the entire nation. The shock of her cold-blooded betrayal is too much for his weak heart to handle. Sukyeon suffers a massive heart attack and collapses on the spot. As his family rushes him to a private room, he clutches his chest, looking at Eun-soo one last time. And then, the powerful prime minister is gone. Ilju is devastated. She can't believe that her father, a man who once controlled the world, has fallen this way, and that she was the one who delivered the final blow. Racked with guilt, she sobs uncontrollably at the funeral, but her siblings have no mercy. They scream at her, calling her a murderer, and physically drag her out of the service. Ilju is left wandering in the rain, completely alone. After the funeral, Eun-soo returns to the quiet mansion, overcome with a strange sadness. She opens a jewelry box, a gift Sukyeon had given her before he died. Inside, she finds a hidden letter. In it, Sukyeon pours out his soul. He expresses his deep gratitude and love for her, thanking her for being by his side during his final days. His final wish? He begs her to let go of all the hatred and to live a beautiful, happy life with Hyungwoo. Eun-soo is moved to tears by the sincerity of the man she once planned to destroy. Shortly after, Ilju comes to find Eun-soo. The death of her father has finally broken her delusions. She tells Eun-soo that she finally realizes how fragile life is and that it shouldn't be wasted on a pursuit of power or fame. She admits that in the chase for status, she lost her own heart. Determined to make things right, Ilju heads to the police station to confess everything and take responsibility for her crimes. Seeing her former rival truly repent, Eun-soo finds it in her heart to finally forgive her. Meanwhile, Hyungwoo watches a video message that Sukyeon recorded for him before he passed. In the video, Sukyeon expresses deep remorse for what he did to Hyungwoo's father and gives his blessing for Hyungwoo and Eun-soo to be together. With this final apology, the weight of revenge is lifted from Hyungwoo's shoulders. He's ready for a fresh start. However, when he confesses his love to Eun-soo, she initially turns him down, fearing that his feelings are just a product of the guilt he's carried for 16 years. 3 years have passed. Eun-soo has moved out of the Kong mansion and donated every penny of the massive fortune Sukyeon left her to charity. Her daughter, Rai, has made a miraculous and full recovery. She's back in school and even wins a painting competition. She brings the winning drawing home to show her mom. The painting depicts a story Hyungwoo once told her, a story about a beautiful love between two people named Eunsu and Hyungwoo. The little girl begs her mom to take her to the big tree from the story. Eunsu agrees, and they drive out to their old hometown. Despite all the years and all the tragedies, the tree is still standing tall. And to Eunsu's surprise, Hyungwoo is already there waiting. After so much time apart, the walls they built around their hearts have finally crumbled. As they look at each other, no words are needed. They can feel the love that never truly died. Hyungwoo pushes Mirai on a swing, and Eunsu watches them with a radiant, happy smile. The peace they have waited half a lifetime for has finally arrived. Thank you for watching.